I forgot that name, perhaps. We were talking about, sir, your poem you presented in Thailand World Sanskrit Conference.
Okay.
Its title
Title is Pushpa Vilapam.
Pushpa Vilapam. So as a good poet, not only shastric knowledge, but the creativity aspect, as far as a good poet, that was flourishing in him. And we see a good, yes, Naishathagara has told, Sahitye Sugumara Vastuni, Dridhanyaya Graha Grandhile Tarkeva, Mai Samvidhadari, Samam Lilayate Bharati. So this is applicable to Professor Kudumba Shastriji, and we are happy that he responded our invitation, and he has great respect to Professor Kunjuna Raja, and he himself voluntarily expressed that he will present a paper on Indian theories of meaning, and I welcome Professor Kudumba Shastriji to this session on theories of meaning, Indian concepts. Professor P.V. Ramankutti is in our midst. He is also a member of the executive body of Kunjundi Raja Academy, a leading Sanskrit scholar in the country. As I told you that he studied Sanskrit very well in traditional lines, but his approaches are to the in a way that is applicable to the modern society, that he uses his Sanskrit knowledge, which is very beneficial to the modern society. He was the principal of the great Sanskrit college, Patambi Government Sanskrit College, founded by Punnasheri Nambi Neelakantha Sharma, the great Sanskrit scholar of a great renaissance, who taught Sanskrit from Brahmana to Chandala. Such a great Sanskrit scholar. He belongs to a very Yathastika community of Brahmins. They never allow other people to enter into their house. At that time, he stood against the Sachanacharas, and he taught the entire community, and he brought the people. So Professor Ramankutti imbibes all these good qualities of that great teacher, and he was principal in several colleges and retired now. He wrote extensively on Indian literature, especially Sanskrit literature and Malayalam literature. He studies mainly on Mahabharata, on several aspects of Mahabharata. His PhD thesis itself is on Mahabharata, the curses in Mahabharata. It's a wonderful work he has done. And so many achievements are there. This is not the time to elaborate all those things. There is no time also. I welcome Professor Ramankutti to our midst to this session to present his paper. Professor Kudumba Shastri will be presenting the paper on Indian theories of meaning, an all-time companion for language studies. That is his title. And Professor P.V. Ramankutti will talk on a note on modern linguistics, also covering our traditional Sanskrit linguistics. Now, unfortunately, P.V. Narayanan, a very sound scholar from Kaladi Shankaracharya University, who was my colleague in the department for several decades, he accepted our invitation and he has to come, but today, due to some unforeseen circumstances, he could not present in the session. He informed me today morning, so P.V. Narayanan, for your information, he will not be attending the session, but he has already prepared the paper and sent to me. That will be published along with other papers. Now, K. Ravindra Raja. Ravindra Raja is, I think he is in my screen, he is not visible. I don't know whether he has arrived here in the session. Professor Ravindra Raja. Professor Ravindra Raja is present. Ravindra Raja is showing his hand. Yes. I am seeing him. Professor Ravindra Raja, when I talk about him, he has to, I have to talk so much about Kunjuni Raja and the relation between Kunjuni Raja and Ravindra Raja. They are relatives, not they are direct nephew of Kunjuni Raja. He is a Malayalam professor, both well-versed in Sanskrit and Malayalam. He is more concerned or more specialized in linguistics, and he was a teacher for a long time in Madras University, author of several papers and books. I welcome Professor Ravindra Raja to this session to present his paper on Bhasha Darshanam of K.K. Raja. Kunjuni Raja's book, Bhasha Darshanam, he will be giving a paper as in the form of a critical study on that book. And finally, our beloved friend, Dr. K. Ravindran, for a long time, he was my colleague in the department in Kaladi. He is the man who translated Indian theories of meaning to Malayalam. Recently, he has published that. That book has been published. And Professor Ravindran has done commendable work in Sanskrit and also in English. And he was leading the Department of Vedic Studies in Kaladi Shankaracharya University. He belongs to, basically he belongs to his parent department is Sanskrit Sahitya, but he has been deputed to Vedic Studies and he has done a lot for that department. Ravindran is a member of our the academy. I invite Ravindran is familiar to you because yesterday Ravindran was presenting the citation to be submitted to presented to Professor Varkeri. So Ravindran is here. I welcome Professor Ravindran to join our session and present his paper on theories of meaning, traditional and modern approach. So these are the papers we are going to hear now. Now I request Professor Kudumba Shastri, our honorable chairman of this session, to present his presidential remarks about this session, because Indian theories of meaning is the area of Kunjuni Raja, and he is going to speak on that same text. So he will be having 101 things to speak on these things. So I welcome Professor Kudumba Shastri to present his presidential address and also his key paper. I request Professor Kudumba Shastri.
Can I go ahead now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Shri Venkatachaladhisham Shriyadhyasita Vakshasam Shritachetana Mandaram Srinivasam Aham Bhaje. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sadasiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara. Most respected Professor Veenathan ji, Professor Murali Mohan ji, Murali Madhavan ji, and assembled scores of scholars. I think I must apologize slightly for one deviation. Yes, I wanted to speak on the text of actually Indian theories of meaning. I prepared well, but what happened is yesterday with Murali Madhavan's presentation on the same, more or less, mainly he spoke on Indian theories of meaning. Lot of overlappings took place. Those are the areas which there is a Hriday Samvada between me and Murali Madhavan. So wherever I found some point to make, I think Murali Madhavanji has put it in a very perfect order. So from yesterday onwards, I was thinking of talking to you in a related matter of semantics, if the Murali Madhavanji allows me to do so. Hello, you are not audible. You are not audible. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Now unmuted, yeah. Unmuted, yeah. I heard what you said.
Can I proceed?
Surely, sir.
No problem.
No problem. You can start.
I hear then now I see.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks to Professor Murali Madhavan especially, and also the authorities and executive committee members of Kunjuni Raja Indological Research for giving me this great opportunity of mixing with almost all very well-known friends through this virtual meeting, even though we didn't have the pleasure of meeting personally, but at the same time, we were able to interact, especially Professor Veenathanji is honoring this session with his presence. And also, I saw a lot of my colleagues on the list. And Professor Murali Madhavanji, because it is a prastuta, because I am to chair the session, he has to say something about me, but unduly he said several things which are, I am not able to hear you. Are you hearing me?
Hearing. Actually, sir, I want to tell one thing. That Professor Kudumba Shastri is the recipient of Rajaprabha Puraskar earlier.
Yeah.
That I thought when I come here I have to mention first that, but I forgot.
No problem.
But that I am mentioning now.
In any case, I was about to say that.
There is a galaxy. There is a galaxy of scholars who received this award, and this award becomes meaningful. Because of Satyavrata Shastri, yourself, R.V. Tripathi, and Professor Ashoka Kluchkar, such great people. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you,
I was about to say that.
Because, thank you. As I myself should say that.
Actually, Murali Madhavan is very close to me for reasons well beyond my understanding. Therefore, he has given me the great opportunity of receiving the Raja's award also some time back. And I only request and pray that the friendship may continue the same way. One more bonding is between all of us is Professor Raja. Professor Raja, actually I entered Madras Mylapore Sanskrit College in early 1969, July or so. So those are the early 70s. Till in one fashion or other, I am constantly visiting Madras for my research or for my studies until 70, 78, until I got my, even after my getting a job and went away and all that, up to full 70s, I was in constant touch with Madras, and I was regular go over to the department. I saw only Raja, Professor Raja, always from a distance, because I didn't have the audacity to introduce myself or interact with him. But he is such a nice person. I heard so much about Professor Raja, very tall, not only in physics, but also tall in his scholarship, as well as in his what you call emotional plane also, very close to everyone, whomever he comes across. Therefore, I pay my homage to Professor Raja before I start speaking to you. Secondly, it is my great good fortune that I happen to be one of the guests or special guests during the centenary celebrations of my professor and supervisor, Dr. Raghavan, and Dr. Nandini ji has given me that opportunity. and Professor Murali Madhavan has given me the opportunity of joining next to Raghavan, that is centenary celebrations of Dr. Raja. These are all great souls who inspired the young minds into research and studies. If we are today somewhere well placed or well meant, it is only on account of the kind of guidance and the kind of association and inspiration we have received from such great scholars, that what we are today, what we are. Now, yesterday in continuation of ITR, I find a great quality in Indian theories of meaning. What I should call it in Sanskrit is a kind of sanyamana. Sanyamana, that is, that which is shown by great writers like Shankara Bhagavad and others, that is controlling oneself not to indulge into beyond the required level of it. In each and every sentence of Indian theories of meaning, you find that Sanyamana of Dr. Raja while discussing the concepts. Secondly, it is full of criticism. It is critical estimation of Indian theories of meaning, but at the same time, he puts the great art of Professor Raja is that he puts it in a descriptive manner. It appears to be descriptive and narrative in its outer form, whereas if we go into the concepts, it is full of criticism. Mostly the works which are full of criticism they appear to be, they cannot be so lucid as Indian theories of meaning. That is Professor Raja's one of the great qualities, and I feel it. There are only 3 texts. I mean, my knowledge and my experience is very limited, especially so in secondary literature, but yet I keep 3 works at par with each other, that is in the arena of philosophical discussion, learning. It is Outlines of Indian Philosophy of Professor Hiriyanna, and in the area of poetics, it is P.B. Kane's History of Sanskrit Poetics, and in the linguistic study of language studies of Sanskrit, it is Indian Theories of Meaning. These 3 texts are at par, and these are not avoidable for any student to enter into the field and play for a long time or do his research and all. Every other moment, every student or scholar has to refer to these 3 books as long as they continue their research in the fields, concerned fields. Such monumental texts. It is, in fact, Indian Theories of Meaning is very short in its bodily form, with only around 300 or 320 pages around. But it deals with the entire gamut of India's understanding of language and language theories. I make sometimes a kind of sweeping remarks also, but not, they may appear to be sweeping, but they are true. I always say Indian studies of language are as old and as deep as the Vedas, because we have got several fundamental principles discussed right in Nirukta and Brihadevata. Starting from the time of Brihadevata and Nirukta, we have got constant history of Indian development of Indian theories of meaning and Indian theories of syntax and semantics. I am afraid such a long tradition is anywhere. But that's why in Raja's book also, wherever he discusses the modern linguistic aspects, and immediately Indian theorists have found it in some here and there. I will tell you one example there, which is very important. Discussing, he says, These are analogous to what some of the modern linguistics call homonyms and homophones. It is modern linguistics, they call the situation as homonyms and homophones, and he says in Indian tradition, it is these both the concepts of homonyms and homophones are in the Mahabhashya of Patanjali. He quotes in the footnotes, says that therefore we have such a, because of compulsion of understanding the Vedic texts, the reason for this long tradition of language studies in India is to decipher the meaning of the Vedic texts. And Kumarila Bhatta's ideas are great in number, and they stand to be further exposed. Lot of material in Kumarila Bhatta's works. With this, a few stray ideas with regard to ITR, I just present today, I think an aspect of semantics related to ITM, Indian theories of meaning, but on semantics related to such topic. Among the Alankarikas, there are two divergent and mutually opposing views about the concept of Tatparya. Raja has left the discussion on Tatparya with Abhinav Gupta's crisp comment in the section of Alankarikas, but I wish to add there, to deal with the concept of Tatparya, with which I am now concerned, I am working presently, a few more ideas I want to present. And I do not know how much time you think, how much time I can take from here.
Sir, no problem. You can take up to 25 minutes.
25 minutes, okay.
Yeah.
I hope I will conclude within that. Yes, it is 3 now. Among the Alankarikas, there are two divergent and mutually opposing views about the concept of Tatparya. The first holds that the role of Tatparya is only to give rise to the sentential meaning through the process of congruing the independent word meanings that are expressed by individual words through the functioning of Abhidha. This is Acharya Abhinav Gupta's view. And following him, that a majority of Alankarikas. In opposition to this, a few others hold that there is a limit whatsoever, there is no limit whatsoever to the functioning of Tatparya, and it continues to give rise a variety of meanings until the purpose of uttering the sentence is completely fulfilled. This is the view held by Dharika, his commentators, Bhojaraja, and others. Let us elucidate both these viewpoints. While commenting on the verse of Brahmadharmika Visrabdhaha in the first Udyota of Dhvanyaloka, Abhinav Gupta develops a thesis of 4 stages of meaning. In stage 1, the individual words give rise to the individual word meanings through the functioning of Abhidha. In stage 2, the individual word meanings are mutually congruent to give rise to the sentential meaning through the functioning of Tatparya. In stage 3, in the example Simbho Manavakaha, the incompatibility of the lion's identity with the Brahmacharin is warded off by adopting the meaning lion-like for the word lion through the functioning of Lakshana, that is, the valor of the Brahmacharin or piety, coolness, etc. of Lakshana, the valor of Brahmacharin or piety, coolness, etc. of village in the example Gangayam Ghoshaha are suggested through the functioning of Vyanjana. During the said discussion, he makes it clear more than once that the meaning of at stage Tatparya in the theory of meaning is only to give rise to the sentential meaning at stage 2. he also states clearly that Tatparya ceases to exist after stage 2. त्रयोह्यत्र व्यापाराः संवेद्यन्ते पदार्थेषु सामान्यात्मसु अभिधा व्यापारः समयापेक्षयार्थावगमनशक्तिर्ह्यभिधा समयश्च तावत्येव न विशेषांशे आनन्त्यात् व्यभिचाराच्च ततो विशेषरूपे वाक्यार्थे तात्पर्यशक्तिः परस्परान्विते सामान्यान्यन्यथा सिद्धेः विशेषं गमयन्तिः इति न्यायात् न च अप्रतिपन्ने अन्वये विरोध प्रतीतिः प्रतिपत्तिश्च अन्वयस्य न अभिधाशक्त्या तस्याः पदार्थ प्रतिपत्त्युपक्षीणायाः विरम्य व्यापाराभावादिति तात्पर्यशक्तिव अन्वय प्रतीतिः व्यापारस्य नाभिधात्मा समयाभावात् न तात्पर्यात्मा तस्य अन्वय प्रतीतावेव परीक्षयात्. This is what Abhinav Gupta says in Dhvanyalokalochana 1.4. In opposition to the position adopted by Abhinav Gupta and others, Dhanika comes forth with his theory of Tatparya as limitless and ever-extending vritti, aparyavasita vritti. His main contention is that all sentences of human origin are dependent on the speaker's intention. Therefore, the purport of a poetic composition also be at par with the similar to that of the speaker's intention. The meaning of a sentence is held to be complete as and when all its expectancies are met. Similarly, as long as the speaker's intention remains unfulfilled, the sentential meaning would necessarily remain incomplete. Therefore, the primary function of the words, the abhidha itself, can be extended to any desired length to give rise to the purportful sentential meaning, that is rati, etc. Hence, there is no need to accept more than one vritti. Abhidha extends to give rise to various meanings at various stages on the strength of Tatparya, which has the tendency to be operative until the final conclusion of the intended meaning of any given sentence has been attained. Paurusheyasya vakyasya vivaksha paratantrata vakyabhipreta tatparyam atah kavyasya yujyate pratipadyasya vishrantihi apeksha puranadyadi vaktur vivakshita prapte ravishrantir navakatham etavataiva vishrantihi tatparyasyeti kim kratam yavat karya prasaritvat tatparyanna tuladhrutam. This is the position of Dhanika. Let us see what is the position of the Shastrakaras here. These two positions are well known to Alankarikas. Let us turn to the Mimamsakas, who are responsible for the theory of Tatparya. Nobody utters a sentence devoid of any result of doing so. Prayojanaanapetam vakyam uchcharyate nahi prayojanapetam vakyam uchcharyate kvachit shlokavartika. They hold that even though there may exist several sentences, each containing individual verbs, all those sentences are still held to be one single sentence, ekavakyata, if such sentences carry mutual expectancy. For example, there are two sentences, namely, the one who is desirous of wealth may perform a sacrifice towards the air god, Vayavyam Pashumalabheta Bhutigamaha. This is a separate sentence with a governing verb, alabheta. Then follows a second sentence stating that God Vayu is very fast moving one, therefore he will bring wealth to the person speedily. Vayurvai Kshepistha Devata Bhutim Gamayati. However, Mimamsakas hold that these two sentences form into a single unit of sentence, as both of them carry mutual expectancy. This is the concept of Ekavakyata followed by the Mimamsakas, which sometimes runs into tens and hundreds of sentences. Mimamsa Sutra Bhashya. In another instance, Shavaraswamin makes it clear that a full passage is held to be one single unit of sentence, irrespective of the number of independent sentences with a complete verb it may contain, as long as it provides the required details of performing one single ritual. Mimamsa, Shavrahashya, Volume 2. Kumarilas observes that a sentence should be competent enough to accomplish an action in full, neither less nor more. Therefore, his definition of sentence is: a sentence is a group of words with one purpose and consisting of mutually expectant limbs. Kumarila explains this position with an analogy of the position of the stem and the suffix. Just as he says, a stem expects a suffix, and in turn the suffix expects the stem. Similarly, there exists a mutual expectancy between the words and between sentences too. An activity can only be accomplished on the strength of means and instruments, not otherwise. By holding this position alone, we can establish the fruitfulness of enjoining of prayajas and anuyajas. The above observations make it clear that the word vakya and vakyartha, for this purpose only I quoted them, the word vakya and vakyartha are used in a technical sense by the Shastrakaras. They sometimes mean a group of words with a governing verb, and sometimes a few such sentences together. Therefore, the total sense of a long and medium passage is held to be vakyartha or sentential meaning too. The above discussion makes us realize that people utter a group of words with a specific purpose in mind. That purpose is served when we now. I skip something because I may not be able to go through full. Now here, let us see in support of what we have, what Shastrakaras, even in Vedanta texts also, Vakyartha, the word Vakya and Vakyartha do not mean a syntactical unit of single sentence, or Vakyartha doesn't mean only a sentence with a governing verb. So, therefore, there is no question of Tatparya to cease functioning after giving rise to the sentential meaning as proposed or as established, as made out by Abhinav Gupta in Dhvanyaloka Lochana Udyota 1, when he discusses the 4 stages. There is a small correction that is needed there. That's what, and on the basis of Abhinav Gupta's own observation elsewhere, let us come to that other point. In support of the observation made above, we may look into the tradition of Alankarikas, especially that of Anand. Even in Alankara Shastra also, the tradition of using the word Vakya and Vakyartha continued to be the same. That's what we should note. Especially that of Anandavardhanacharya on the issue of Tatparya. Given the limitations of space, okay, I will quote now a few Anandavardhanacharya's Karikas. Rasa bhavadi tatparyamashritya viniveshanam alankritinam sarvasam alankaratva sadhanam. We have to be very understand the meaning of all these karikas are well known. I just repeat because good scholars are around. Prakaroyam gunibhuta vyangyopi dhvanirupatam dhatte rasadi tatparya paryalochanaya punah. Yasmin rasova bhavova तात्पर्येण प्रकाशते समृत्याभिहितं वस्तु यत्र अलङ्कार एव वा 342 रसादिषु विवक्षा तु स्यात् तात्पर्यवती यदा तदा नास्त्येव तत्काव्यं ध्वनेर्यत्र नगोचरः 342 समृद्ध सत्पुरुष समीपवर्तिनः निर्धनस्य कस्यचित् मनस्विनः परिदेवितं तात्पर्येण वाक्यार्थीकृतम्. Even the word vakyarthikritam is also used by Anandavardhana with regard to explaining this kasvambho kathayami daivahatakam mam vidhi shakotakam. While commenting on that shloka, he says, Samruddha Satpurusha Samipa Vartino Nirdhanasya Kasyachit Manasvinaha Paridevitam Tatparyena Vakyarthikritam iti pratiyate. यत्तु अभिप्राय विशेष रूपं व्यंग्यं शब्दार्थाभ्यां प्रकाश्यते तद्भवति विवक्षितं तात्पर्येण प्रकाशमानम्. The entire abhipraya of using of the shabda and artha is tatparya. Dhvanyaloka says in page 199, tatparyena prakashamanam yatra vyangya pradhanye sadhvani. Now, Lochanakara explains the Dhvanyaloka sentence that Samruddha Purusha Samipavartino Vakyarthikritam etc. He says Tatparyena is equal to Vishranti Dhamataya. This is what Anandavardhana repeatedly says, Kavi Samrambha Vishranti. And second, Tatparyena is equal to Vishranti Dhamataya Prayojanatvena iti yavat. Even Lochanakara, that is Abhinavaguptacharya, accepts while he comments on Dhvanyaloka lines in the later Udyotas that the Tatparya means Vishranti Dhama and Tatparya means the Prayojana of using a sentence or a passage or a text. All the above and many more quotations from several Alankarikas reveal the fact that Rasa, Bhava and Vyangyartha are all prime concepts only because of Tatparya. Abhinavaguptacharya himself explains that Tatparya means Vishranti Dhama and Prayojana. That which is Vishranti Dhama and Prayojana cannot be the same as syntactical sentential meaning at stage 2 according to his own scheme. There is a contradiction. In addition, the above passages clearly indicate the identity of Tatparya and Dhvani. In the light of the above observations, Abhinavaguptacharya's comment in the first Udyota cited earlier is completely out of order and to a large extent misleading, which the later Alankarikas have blindly followed. Bhojaraja also favors the identity of Tatparya and Dhvani and describes them in his own way. Tatparyameva vachasi dhvanireva kavye saubhagyameva gunasampati vallabhasya lavanyameva babushi swadatenganaya sringarayeva hridimanavato janasya yadabhipraya sarvasvam vakturvakyat pratiyate tatparyam arthadharmastat shabdadharmah punardhvani saubhagyamiva tatparyam antaro gunayishyate vagdevataya lavanyamiva bhakyastato tayor-dhvani adura viprakarshattu dvayena dvayamuchyate yatha surabhi vaishakau madhu madhava samjnaya. This is the conclusion of Bhojaraja. Dirgha conclusion. Dirghatara vyaparavada is as good as Vrittitrayavada. That is, the Dhanika's position is as valid as the Dhvani theory. The example of shooting an arrow is perfectly applicable in toto with regard to knowledge representation Shabdabodha. It does not deserve the kind of treatment that it had received from the Alankarikas. Tatparya is Shakti imported onto the group of words uttered by the speaker. it continues to function till the hearer understands the intended meaning. There is a different set of causal aggregates that give rise to various different meanings at various stages. All this has happened in Alankara Shastra is only on account of a feeling that if Tatparya is to be taken in the Alankara tradition, as per the Mimamsaka's understanding of the concept of Tatparya, the place of Dhvani may be risky and the Vyanjana may lose its prime position. This is what the people were concerned when they toned down the application of Tatparya intentionally or according to their. We have to still further examine the issue. But what it appears to us, to me, is also there is a way out accommodating both Tatparya in its conception, in its original conception as conceived by the Mimamsakas, as well as Vrittitrayavada. We can accommodate both of them together. That's what I propose now for the consideration of scholars assembled here. There is a different, the reason for Vrittitrayavada is that there is a different set of causal aggregates that give rise to various different meanings at various levels. That is Mukhyarthabadha, Tadyoga, and Rudhi or Prayojana with regard to Lakshana, and Kavisambhrambha Vishranti and other factors with regard to Dhvani, Vyanjana. On the basis and strength of such causal aggregates, Tatparya can give rise to Lakshyartha as well as Vyangyartha. Even in the scheme of Lakshana and Vyanjana, Tatparya plays a crucial role in making them functional. Because if there is no Tatparya Anubhavati, there is no Lakshana. If there is no Lakshana, there is no Lakshana Molaka Vyanjana. So Tatparya cannot be stopped at stage 2, as Abhinavagupta has said in the Dvanyaloka 1, Udyota 1. Both the doctrines, Tatparyavada and Dhvanivada, are logical. They contain no mutual contradiction as apprehended by Alankarikas. The Alankarikas, including Abhinavaguptacharya, were consistently had some problem in their approach to the concept of Tatparya, which is not fair to be. The ideal solution to the problem can be as follows. Tatparya is Shakti, not Vritti, which is not natural but is imported onto the group of words by the speaker. Tatparya is Shakti, not Vritti, which is not natural but is imported onto the group of words by the speaker. It causes syntactical sentential meaning sometimes, and sometimes brings Lakshana and Vyanjana into operation. Without the involvement of Tatparya, neither syntactical sentential meaning, nor Lakshyartha, nor Vyangyartha come into being. Tatparya ceases to exist only after the prime and ultimate intended meaning, like Rasa, Bhava, and Dhvani, are known by the hearer. From this, unless you accept like that, the Karikas I read from Dvanyaloka will never be properly explained. Therefore, the concepts Tatparya and Vyanjana can operate together and give rise to the ultimate intended meaning. What I wish to say is, Tatparya is a Shakti. As per the simile given of an arrow, shooting of an arrow, it starts from the time the words are uttered by the speaker till even Rasa, Bhava, and everything is made known to the hearer. It never stops, because once an arrow is shot, it cannot be stopped in between. Similar the position with the Tatparya. While doing so, the Tatparya Shakti gives rises to various vrittis. Tatparya is a Shakti. There are two Shaktis. Padartha level, it is the Abhidha Shakti, and Vakyartha level, it is a Tatparya Shakti. These two are the Shaktis and the potentialities of the words and sentences inherent in them, and they give rise to the vrittis. Vrittis are different. Vritti is Abhidha, and then Lakshana, and then Vyajana, according to the causal aggregate that is available to all the vrittis start playing their role of giving the meaning. Meaning should be given only by vritti. Padajanya padarthopasthiti. Vritti Lakshana is very clear. Therefore, vritti is needed to give the meaning, but to prompt the vritti, tatparya is also needed to go till the end of the satisfying the intention of the speaker. Therefore, somewhat the crisp comment made by Abhinav Gupta under Brahmadharmika Shloka is to be critically further examined. Thank you. Whether I am clear or not, thanks for giving this opportunity for me. Because number of issues have already been discussed by several others and several speakers like Murali Madhavanji, and even Professor Cardona also spoke on very great aspect of Indian theories of meaning. And later on, today, tomorrow, few more speakers will unavoidably referring to it. I took one small point in semantics to present it before the galaxy of scholars. Those are assembled here. I seek the pardon of authorities for changing my topic all of a sudden. And I also owe my gratitude and thanks to all those who are responsible. And I take leave of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kudumba Shastriji. You told that you are deviated from the main subject, but you were talking about the main subject, which we have to discuss today in this session. We are talking about Indian meaning, the theories of meaning. So you have pointed out a very vital issue, which has to be debated further.
Yes, thank you.
And you have given a very good path. And people now, you are a path maker. Now you have made the path and you can travel to any extent possible. Anyway, it is good attempt you have made regarding the Vakya and Vakyartha and their difference and how this vritti and it is very, very nicely you have put. And now it is, I think we will have some questions at the end, then we will have. Now we will move to the second paper by Professor P.V. Ramankutti. I have introduced him earlier, and he is a member of Kunjunni Raja Academy of Indological Research. He is an executive member. I invite Professor P.V. Ramankutti to present his paper on a note on Indian linguistics with a slight modification, I think so. I hope that he will be speaking about Kunjunni Raja also, how based on Indian theories of meaning. Professor P.V. Ramankutti.
Thank you. Honorable President of the session, Professor Kudumba Shastriji, Professor B.V. Nathanji, Professor P.C. Murali Madhavan, Chairman, Kunjunni Raja Academy of International Research, the Chief Architect of this program, and then Mr. Girish Paliat, the eldest son of Kunjunni Raja, and the family members of Kunjunni Raja, dignitaries who present papers in this session, my dear young researchers and students who are listening this program online, it is with great delight that I accepted the invitation to present a paper in this international seminar session in memory of Kunjunni Raja. Linguistics is one of Raja's choicest domains of interest. Indeed, there is hardly any branch of learning in Sanskrit which he was not interested in. That is why Kunjunni Raja, a doyen in the field of Indology, wrote research articles on a wide variety of topics ranging from Sanskrit poetics to modern linguistics. With his simplicity and forthrightness, Kunjunni Raja was one who labored hard for the promotion of learning, and he had a great reputation as a lover of letters and a perceptive writer in Indology. Kunjunti Raja was a man of intellectual honesty and a deep academic convictions. An instance may be cited here. Dr. Madeleine Viordieu, well-known French Indologist and science scholar, who translated works of Mandana Mishra, Vachaspati Mishra, and Bhartrhari into French, once criticized Raja's treatment of the Poda theory of Bhartrhari. She observed that Raja's approach was a purely linguistic one in isolation of Bhartrhari's monistic philosophy. She observed that Bhartrhari's Poda theory cannot be evaluated, bereft of Bhartrhari's philosophy of monism, with its mystic implications. Kunjunti Raja replied that his treatment of Bhartrhari's Poda theory from the linguistic point of view is perfectly in order. Even Mandana Mishra's treatment of Poda in his Poda Siddhi is a linguistic one. Moreover, grammarians like Nagesha, author of Manjusha, and his Podavada treated the theory of Poda purely from the linguistic point of view. Again, great philosophers who criticized the Poda theory like Karmakirti, Kumarila Bhatta, Shankara, Vachaspati Mishra, Shanta Dikshita, and Kamalashila have all discussed Poda theory on the basis of the linguistic aspect of verbal comprehension. This was the reply by Kunjunti Raja. The contribution of Kunjunti Raja as a researcher has been outstanding. It was he who, among others, who opened up in Sanskrit an era of modern research. This was significant with reference to a classical language like Sanskrit, which is remarkable features of language structure and antiquity, as well as a rich store of literature. The way he wrote with a precision, making use of modern tools of methodology, his passionate and objective approach to his topic of study, the historical as well as
Audio is not visible. Audio gone.
Audio gone.
അവിടെ കേൾക്കാണ്ടല്ലോ മനോജിന്റെ സിസ്റ്റത്തിൽ കേൾക്കാണ്ട്.
am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, now audible.
Yes,
Now
sir.
audible. Yes.
Yes. Brilliant specimens as to the 20th, how a 20th century researcher should address his academic inquiry while dealing with our rich cultural heritage, a significant part of which is embedded in the language of Sanskrit. Some of his monumental works and articles remain as brilliant signposts for the coming generation of researchers in Indology. Kunjunti Raja did his first doctoral research under Kunjan Raja, his uncle, also a well-known Sanskrit scholar. He earned his second PhD in linguistics in London, and the result is the far-famed Indian theories of meaning on which Dr. Kudumbashastraji was speaking presently. So I think it is befitting on this occasion to present a paper on modern linguistics, which is said. What is said in the paper is supposed to be, can be in a way, an extended line of interpretation with respect to the language and its study, and about which much is being written nowadays, comparing our traditional theories of language and also those of Ferdinand de Saussure and the subsequent scholars in the field. Now, I shall briefly introduce my paper. It is a note on modern linguistics, which is, I think, very relevant and against the backdrop of what Raja has said with respect to Indian traditional theories. The science of language has undergone a sea change during the first decades of the 20th century. This period witnessed a marked shift in the method, approach, and content of a language study. The pivotal figure in this transition of linguistics from the 19th century to the 20th century was Ferdinand de Saussure, 1857 to 1913, the Swiss linguist and Sanskrit scholar. His observations on language were valuable, original, and insightful. Saussure is therefore considered the founder of modern linguistics. So it is needless to mention that Saussure occupies a remarkable place in the history of modern linguistics. It was Saussure's ideas about language structure that influenced the development of the linguistic theory known as structuralism. He began his language studies at the University of Leipzig in 1879. As a student, he published a book.
Link
on the original photo. As a student, Saussure, the first book was a book by name Memoir on the Original Vowel System of a Proto-Indo-European. So Proto-Indo-European is considered the parent language from which the Indo-European languages descended. He was a teacher in Paris during 1881 to 1891. Later, he became a professor of Sanskrit and comparative grammar at the University of Geneva. Saussure's so his roots were in Sanskrit also, and his thesis is also about the genitive case, the Shakti Vibhakti in Sanskrit. Saussure's important work is the one called Course in General Linguistics, which was published in 1915. The work is the result of the attempts of two of his students who compiled his lecture notes and other materials. The book explained his structural approach, and it proved to be highly influential, especially during the 30 years after the posthumous publication of this work in 1916. Though the work is fragmentary in nature, it exerted unparalleled influence on European linguistics. It has, and linguistics in general, it has had a major formative role to play in the shaping of linguistic thought in modern linguistics. In addition to linguistics, Saussure's work has influenced disciplines like anthropology, history, and literary criticism. As noted earlier, Saussure is considered the founder of modern linguistics. Leonard Bloomfield, 1887 to 1949, well-known American linguist, observed, a quote, Saussure provided a theoretic foundation to the newer trend in linguistic study, unquote. Jonathan Culler, born in 1943, well known for his work, namely structuralist poetics, structuralism, linguistics, and the study of literature, said in 1876, quote, Saussure is the father of modern linguistics, the man who recognized the systematic study of language in such a way as to make possible the achievements of the 20th century in linguistics. This alone would make him modern master of a discipline which he made modern, unquote. Now, Saussure's contribution to modern linguistics is comprised of the following three key directions he made in the language of in the study of language. One, Saussure made a distinction between synchronic and diachronic dimensions of language. The second, distinction between lang and parole. Then third, most important, language is a system of signs, S-I-G-N-S. Diachronic linguistics views the historical development of a language. Synchronic linguistics, on the other hand, views a particular state of a language at some given point of time. In synchronic approach, no comparisons are made to other states of language in other times. Saussure postulated that Saussure postulated the priority of synchronic approach. According to him, no knowledge of the historical development of a language is necessary to examine its present system. He arrived at this radical viewpoint due to his conviction that linguistic research must concentrate on the structure of language. Later, the whole paradigm was hence called structuralism. Modern linguistics, following Ferdinand de Saussure, is primarily interested in the synchronic point of view. Linguistics, which pertains to the changes in linguistic system between successive points in time, is called diachronic linguistics. It is also called historical linguistics. Historical linguistics had emerged during the 19th century, discarding traditional grammar, which was prevalent during the 17th and 18th centuries. Historical linguistics was reigning supreme in Europe almost until the end of 19th century. Saussure pointed out the distinction between historical linguistics and the state of language at any point in time. Contrary to diachronic linguistics, synchronic linguistics is having reference to the facts of a linguistic system as it exists at one point in time. It is not concerned with using information about the history of words, sounds, grammar, etc. Comparative grammar also does not come under its purview. Synchronic linguistics is, in a sense, descriptive linguistics. It concerns with the state of a language at any point in time, especially the present. In synchronic linguistics, time factor is irrelevant or trivial. When historical material comes into a picture, linguistics enters the diachronic domain. It is the study of language history and change. The chief questions addressed by diachronic linguistics include theories about the origin of language, etc. It is concerned with the evolution of language too. It's a never-ending succession of languages too, languages and their states. For example, the study of the evolution of Old English to Middle English, or the change of Shakespeare's or Kalidasa's style from youth to maturity, all these come under this branch of study, are topics that appear under diachronic linguistics. Synchronic linguistics sees language as a living whole. It gives importance to the structural properties of language. The system of language is complete and operates as a logical system at any point in time, devoid of influence from the past. Language has an existence apart from history. People who speak language are not bothered of history. And then he brings out the concept of langue and parole. According to Saussure, language has got two vital aspects, namely langue, that means the language system, and second is parole, which means the act of speaking. The totality of language can be deduced from an examination of the memories of the people who use language. Language is an abstract system which we all have in common. It enables us to speak. It is considered people's cognitive apparatus. Grammar, vocabulary, phonology, etc. actualize language. Language exists in the mind of every speaker. It's a corporate social phenomenon whose characteristics are present in the brain. People, parole, a language per parole is the act of speaking. It is the exclusive side of language. It actualizes language. Speech is psychophysical activity, Saussure says. It is personal and dynamic. Parole concerns itself with a particular time and place as well as a particular situation. It is opposed to the langue which exists apart from any particular manifestations of speech. Speech is ancillary and more or less accidental, but language is essential. While langue is social, speech is individual. Langue is never complete in any individual, but exists perfectly in the collectivity. The study of speech may lead to confusion since it is complicated with several aspects, but study of language is more systematic and methodical. David Crystal, another linguist, analyzes Saussure's concept of langue thus. Langue is equal to grammar plus vocabulary plus the system of pronunciation. Now, Saussures' concept of language as a system of science is a major contribution. Language he holds is a system of science. It is a very important contribution of Saussure. According to scholars, the influence of this concept of Saussure was great on subsequent scholarship on the subject. Linguistics is itself is a study of science and the relationship. Science is a mental construct, but it is real. The linguistic science is constituted. The linguistic science is constituted between the concept and the word. I'll be concluding. Saussure conceived of language as a system of science. A science gives meaning only in relation to the totality of other science. A sign consists of a signifier and a signified. According to Saussure, the relation between the signifier and the signified is arbitrary. Saussure was the first linguist to treat language as a system of science. Linguistic science is complex. It has a double entity consisting of the signified, which is the concept, and the signifier, which is the sound image. The black marks CAT, C-A-T, constitute a signifier or sound image which evokes the signified CAT in an English mind. Each sign in the system of signs has meaning only by virtue of its difference from other signs. CAT has meaning not in itself, but because it is not cap or cad or badge. Both of components of the linguistic sign, namely the signifier and the signified, are inseparable. The easiest way to appreciate this is to think of them as being the either side of a piece of paper. One side simply cannot exist without the other. In linguistics, everything depends upon the relations social held. The signifier relations are of two kinds: the paradigmatic relations and also the syntagmatic association. The paradigmatic relations and also the syntagmatic or associative relations. Value or meaning for signifiers is produced because of these two kinds of relations. They correspond to two different forms of mental activity. Words which are strung together either into relations, enter into relations based on the linear character of languages. Linearity precludes the possibility of uttering two words simultaneously. They must be arranged consecutively in spoken sequences. Combinations based on sequentiality are called syntagmas. The syntagmas invariably comprise of two or more units. Examples: read, against all, the title of pain, God is good. All these examples are there. Now, some more explanation is there, but since it is almost time, and I will conclude. Ferdinand de Saussure was the originator of the 20th century structuralism. He focused not on the use of language for parole, but rather on the underlying system of language, and called his theory semiology. Saussure's approach focused on examining how the elements of language are related to each other in the present, that is, synchronically rather than diachronically. Finally, he argued that linguistic signs were composed of two parts, that is, a signifier, the sound image, and the signified, the concept or meaning of the word. This was quite different from previous approaches, which focused on the relationship between words and things in the world that they designate. I think this is an extension where Kunjunraja stopped in the field of the domain of linguistics. Thank you very much for your patience hearing. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Mashe, Mash?
It's over.
Okay.
Hello. Audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Professor Ramankuti, thanks for your scholarly presentation. I think due to paucity of time, you have cut short your paper, I think so. But there is no other way because we have time only that much. And we are now nearing 4. We have to complete 2 more papers and then some small discussion. Now we will pass on to this next paper by by Dr. K. Ravindra Raja. As I told you in my introduction, that Ravindra Raja is the nephew of Professor Kunjumni Raja, a scholar in several areas in Malayalam literature and also Malayalam language. Now I request Dr. K. Ravindra Raja to present his paper on Bhasha Bhushanam of K. Raja. Dr. Ravindra Raja.
നമസ്കാരം. രാജാവിന്റെ ജന്മശതാബ്ദിയോടനുബന്ധിച്ച് നടത്തുന്ന വെബിനാറിൽ അദ്ദേഹത്തെ അനുസ്മരിക്കാനും അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ പ്രവർത്തന മേഖലയുടെ ഒരംശം സ്പർശിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് സംസാരിക്കാനും അവസരം ഒരുക്കി തന്ന പ്രൊഫസർ മുരളി മാധവൻ സാർ, ശ്രീ ഗിരീശൻ മുതലായവരോട് ആദ്യമായി എൻ്റെ നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തുന്നു. മിടുക്കമാമന്റെയും ശാന്തമ്മായിയുടെയും കൂടെ അടയാറിലെ തിയോസഫിക്കൽ സൊസൈറ്റിയിലെ ശ്രീറാം കോളനിയിൽ 5 വർഷത്തോളം ജീവിക്കാൻ കഴിഞ്ഞതാണ് എൻ്റെ ജീവിതത്തിൻ്റെ നന്മയിലേക്കുള്ള വഴിത്തിരിവായി മാറിയത് എന്ന് സസന്തോഷം ഞാൻ ഓർമ്മിക്കുന്നു. ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ വിഷയത്തിലേക്ക് പ്രവേശിക്കട്ടെ. ഭാഷാ ദർശനവും സാഹിത്യ ആസ്വാദനവും ഡോക്ടർ കുഞ്ചുണ്ണി രാജാവിൻ്റെ ദൃഷ്ടിയിൽ ഭാഷയുടെയും സാഹിത്യത്തിൻ്റെയും വിവിധ മണ്ഡലങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ചുള്ള നിരീക്ഷണങ്ങളും പഠനങ്ങളും ഗവേഷണങ്ങളും കാഴ്ചവെച്ച മഹാപണ്ഡിതനാണ് ഡോക്ടർ കെ കുഞ്ചുണ്ണി രാജ. അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ ചില നിരീക്ഷണങ്ങളിലൂടെയും പഠനങ്ങളിലൂടെയും ഭാഷയെയും സാഹിത്യത്തെയും അദ്ദേഹം എങ്ങനെ കണ്ടിരുന്നുവെന്ന് കണ്ടെത്താനുള്ള പരിശ്രമമാണ് ഈ പ്രബന്ധത്തിന്റെ പ്രധാന ഉദ്ദേശ്യം. ഭാഷാ പഠനത്തിന്റെ നിലവാരവും വിജ്ഞാന പരിസരവും മനസ്സിലാക്കാൻ ഉതകുന്ന വിധത്തിൽ ആധുനിക ഭാഷാശാസ്ത്രം, വാക്യാർത്ഥ ബന്ധം, സ്ഫോടവാദം, കാവ്യഭാഷ, സാഹിത്യ വിമർശനം, സഹൃദയത്വം എന്നിവയെക്കുറിച്ച് പരാമർശിക്കുന്ന അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ ഭാഷാദർശനവും ചരിത്രവും എന്ന ഗ്രന്ഥത്തെയാണ് ഞാൻ അവലംബമാക്കിയിരിക്കുന്നത്. ഭാരതീയ കാവ്യമീമാംസയുടെ സാർവകാലിക പ്രസക്തിയെക്കുറിച്ചും ഈ ഗ്രന്ഥത്തിൽ അദ്ദേഹം വ്യക്തമാക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇംഗിതങ്ങൾ പരസ്പരം കൈമാറാനുള്ള ഒരു ഉപകരണം എന്ന നിലയ്ക്ക് മാത്രമല്ല, സാമൂഹിക ജീവിതം ക്രമപ്പെടുത്തുകയും സാംസ്കാരികമായ വളർച്ച സാധ്യമാക്കി തീർക്കുകയും ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു ഉത്കൃഷ്ട സിദ്ധി എന്ന നിലയ്ക്കും ഭാഷയ്ക്ക് അത്യുന്നതമായ സ്ഥാനമുണ്ട്. തിര്യക്കുകളുടെ ഭാഷാരീതിയെക്കുറിച്ച് പാശ്ചാത്യവും ഭാരതീയവുമായുള്ള പഠനങ്ങൾ വ്യക്തമാക്കി ഭാഷയുടെ വൈവിധ്യത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് ഡോക്ടർ കുഞ്ചുണ്ണി രാജ നിരീക്ഷിക്കുന്നു. പഞ്ചതന്ത്ര കഥകളും ഈസോപ്പ് കഥകളും തേനീച്ചകളുടെ ഭാഷയെക്കുറിച്ചുള്ള പാശ്ചാത്യ ശാസ്ത്രജ്ഞന്മാരുടെ നിരീക്ഷണങ്ങളും വ്യക്തമാക്കി ടെലഗ്രാഫ് ഭാഷയെക്കുറിച്ചും കഥകളിയിലെയും മറ്റും മുദ്രകളെക്കുറിച്ചും സാമാന്യമായി പറഞ്ഞു വയ്ക്കാനും ഡോക്ടർ രാജ തയ്യാറാവുന്നു. മനുഷ്യ ഭാഷയ്ക്ക് മറ്റു ഭാഷകളിൽ നിന്നുള്ള വ്യത്യാസങ്ങളെ പറ്റിയും അവയുടെ നവനവങ്ങളായ കണ്ടുപിടുത്തങ്ങളെ പറ്റിയും പറഞ്ഞ് അവയുടെ സാങ്കേതികത്വത്തെയും പരസ്പര വിനിമയ സാധ്യതകളെ പറ്റിയും വിശദീകരിക്കുന്നു. അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ ശ്രദ്ധേയമായ വരികൾ നോക്കുക. പക്ഷി മൃഗാദികളെ സംബന്ധിച്ചിടത്തോളം ജന്മസിദ്ധമായ വാസനകൾ മാത്രമാണ് അവയുടെ ജീവിത മത്സരത്തിനുള്ള ആയുധങ്ങൾ. ഓരോ ജീവിയും ജീവിതകാലത്ത് സ്വന്തം അനുഭൂതികളിൽ നിന്നും മനസ്സിലാക്കുന്ന അറിവ് അതിൻ്റെ മരണത്തോടുകൂടി നശിച്ചു പോവുകയാണ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. മനുഷ്യർക്ക് മാത്രമാണ് തലമുറ തലമുറയായി സാംസ്കാരിക സമ്പത്ത് വർദ്ധിപ്പിച്ചു കൊണ്ടുവരാൻ കഴിയുന്നത്. അതായത് ഒരു തലമുറ അവസാനിപ്പിച്ച ദിക്കിൽ നിന്ന് അടുത്ത തലമുറ ജൈത്രയാത്ര ആരംഭിക്കുന്നു എന്ന് പറയാം. ഇതാണ് മനുഷ്യന്റെ ഭാഷയുടെ പ്രാധാന്യമായി അദ്ദേഹം കാണുന്നത്. പരിണാമത്തിന്റെ ചങ്ങലയിൽ മനുഷ്യന്റെ തൊട്ടപ്പുറത്തുള്ള കണ്ണിയാണ് ചിമ്പാൻസി എന്നും മനുഷ്യനും ചിമ്പാൻസിക്കും ഇടയിലുണ്ടായിരുന്ന കണ്ണികൾ നശിച്ചുപോയെന്നും അദ്ദേഹം പറയുന്നു. മനുഷ്യരാശിയുടെ ചരിത്രം ഭാഷയുടെ മാഹാത്മ്യം വിളംബരം ചെയ്യുന്ന സാക്ഷ്യപത്രമാണെന്നും അദ്ദേഹം വിശദമാക്കുന്നു. ആധുനിക ഭാഷാശാസ്ത്രത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് പറയുമ്പോൾ പാശ്ചാത്യ പണ്ഡിതന്മാരുടെ ഭാഷാശാസ്ത്ര പഠനങ്ങളെ കുറിച്ചാണ് ആദ്യം സൂചിപ്പിക്കുന്നത്. പാശ്ചാത്യ സംസ്കാരത്തിന്റെ നിലനിൽപ്പും വളർച്ചയും യവന സംസ്കാരത്തിന്റെ അടിത്തറയിൽ ഊന്നിയാണെന്ന് സൂചിപ്പിച്ച ശേഷം ബാബിലോണിയൻ സംസ്കാരത്തെ വിവരിക്കുന്നു. റോമൻ, ഗ്രീക്ക്, ഈജിപ്ഷ്യൻ, ചൈനീസ് മുതലായ ഭാഷകളെക്കുറിച്ചും ഭാഷാലിപികളെക്കുറിച്ചും ആദ്യകാല രചനകളെക്കുറിച്ചും നിരീക്ഷണങ്ങൾ നടത്തിയ ശേഷം സെമിനിക് ഭാഷയെക്കുറിച്ചും ലാറ്റിൻ ഭാഷയെക്കുറിച്ചും പറയുന്നു. വർണ്ണങ്ങളും പദങ്ങളും രൂപം കൊണ്ട് അതിലൂടെ വാക്യസൃഷ്ടി നടത്തുന്നതിനെ കുറിച്ചാണ് പിന്നീട് വിവരിക്കുന്നത്. ഒരേ വസ്തുവിന് തന്നെ വിവിധ ഭാഷകളിൽ വിഭിന്ന പദങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടാകുന്നതിനെ കുറിച്ചും ജാപ്പനീസ്, അറബി, ഹീബ്രു മുതലായ ഭാഷകളെക്കുറിച്ചും അദ്ദേഹം പരാമർശിക്കുന്നു. ഇത്തരുണത്തിൽ അദ്ദേഹം പറഞ്ഞ വാക്കുകൾ ശ്രദ്ധേയങ്ങളാണ്. ഭാഷാശാസ്ത്രം ഒരു വിദേശ ചരക്കാണെന്ന് കരുതി അതിനെ പുച്ഛിച്ച് തള്ളേണ്ടതില്ല. ഇന്നത് തഴച്ചു വളർന്നു നിൽക്കുന്നത് പാശ്ചാത്യ ദേശങ്ങളിലാണെങ്കിലും അത് ഇന്ത്യയിൽ തന്നെയാണ് ഉടലെടുത്തത്. പാശ്ചാത്യ പണ്ഡിതന്മാർ സംസ്കൃതം പഠിക്കാൻ തുടങ്ങിയപ്പോൾ സംസ്കൃതത്തോട് ഗ്രീക്ക്, ലാറ്റിൻ ഭാഷകൾക്കുള്ള രൂഢമൂലമായ ബന്ധം അവർക്ക് മനസ്സിലായി. അതോടെ ഈ ഭാഷകളുടെ താരതമ്യ പഠനങ്ങളും ആരംഭിച്ചു. പാണിനിയുടെ സംസ്കൃത വ്യാകരണമാണ് ഗ്രീക്ക്, ലാറ്റിൻ മുതലായ ഭാഷകൾ വിശകലനം ചെയ്ത് വിവരിക്കാൻ പാശ്ചാത്യ പണ്ഡിതന്മാരെ സഹായിച്ചത്. ചരിത്രപരവും താരതമ്യ പുരസ്കൃതവുമായ മാർഗങ്ങൾ ഉപയോഗിച്ച് ഭാരതീയ വൈയാകരണന്മാർ പ്രവർത്തിക്കാത്തതിൽ പാശ്ചാത്യ പണ്ഡിതന്മാർക്ക് വിഷമമുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ഈ മാർഗങ്ങൾ അവലംബിക്കാതിരുന്നതിന് ചില പണ്ഡിതന്മാർ യാസ്കനെയും പാണിനിയെയും അപലപിക്കാൻ വരെ മുതിർന്നിരുന്നുവെന്ന് ഡോക്ടർ കുഞ്ചുണ്ണി രാജ പറയുന്നു. മനുഷ്യബുദ്ധിയുടെ അതിമഹത്തായ സ്മാരകവും ഭാഷാ വിവരണത്തിൽ അത്യന്താപേക്ഷിത മാതൃകയുമാണ് പാണിനിയുടെ വ്യാകരണമെന്ന് പാശ്ചാത്യ ഭാഷാശാസ്ത്രത്തിന്റെ പ്രാമാണിക പണ്ഡിതനായ ബ്ലൂംഫീൽഡ് പറഞ്ഞത് ഉദ്ധരിക്കാനും അദ്ദേഹം മടിക്കുന്നില്ല. സംസ്കൃതത്തിൽ വ്യാകരണം എന്ന പദത്തിന് തന്നെ ഭാഷയുടെ വിശകലനാത്മകമായ പഠനം എന്നാണ് അർത്ഥമാക്കുന്നതെന്നും അദ്ദേഹം വ്യക്തമാക്കുന്നു. വേദങ്ങളിലും ഉപനിഷത്തുകളിലും വാഗ്ദേവിയെക്കുറിച്ചുള്ള ധാരാളം സൂക്തങ്ങളുണ്ടെന്നും ഉദാഹരിക്കുന്നു. വാഗ്ദേവിയെ ഒരു കൂട്ടർ കാണുന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിലും ശരിയായി കണ്ടറിയുന്നില്ല, കേൾക്കുന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിലും കേട്ടറിയുന്നില്ല. സൗന്ദര്യധാമമായ ആ ദേവി സ്നേഹസമ്പൂർണയായ ഭാര്യ, സർവാലങ്കാര വിഭൂഷിതയായി സ്വന്തം ശരീരം ഭർത്താവിനെ പൂർണ്ണമായി സമർപ്പിക്കുന്നത് പോലെ വശംവദയാകുന്നത് യഥാർത്ഥ സഹൃദയന് മാത്രമാണെന്ന് വ്യക്തമാക്കുന്ന സൂക്തം വിശദീകരിക്കാനും അദ്ദേഹം മറക്കുന്നില്ല. പാശ്ചാത്യ ഭാഷാശാസ്ത്ര പഠനത്തിൽ വ്യത്യസ്തങ്ങളായ സമീപനങ്ങൾ ഉണ്ടായത് ചൂണ്ടിക്കാട്ടി ചോംസ്കിയുടെ കണ്ടെത്തലുകളും പറഞ്ഞു തരുന്നു. സാമാന്യമായി വളരെ വലിയ സംഭാവനകൾ നൽകാൻ കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടുള്ള ചോംസ്കിക്കും ഭാഷാ പഠനത്തിന്റെ എല്ലാ വശങ്ങളിലേക്കും കടന്നു ചെല്ലാൻ സാധിച്ചിട്ടില്ലെന്ന് പറയാനും അദ്ദേഹം തയ്യാറാവുന്നു. ഭാഷാ നിയമങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ചും പരിണാമങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ചും ഡോക്ടർ രാജ ചരിത്രപരവും വിവരണാത്മകവുമായ സമീപന രീതികൾ പരിചയപ്പെടുത്താനും അദ്ദേഹം തയ്യാറാവുന്നു. പരസ്പരം ആശയങ്ങൾ കൈമാറാനുള്ള ഉപകരണമാണ് ഭാഷ. പക്ഷെ അത് മാത്രമല്ല സത്യം. സത്യം പറയുന്നത് പോലെ തന്നെ നുണ പറയാനും മറ്റുള്ളവരെ തെറ്റിദ്ധരിപ്പിക്കുവാനും ഭാഷയ്ക്കുള്ള സ്ഥാനത്തെക്കുറിച്ചും അദ്ദേഹം വിവരിക്കുന്നു. വാക്യാർത്ഥ ബോധത്തെക്കുറിച്ചുള്ള മറ്റൊരു ചിന്തയാണ് ഡോക്ടർ രാജ പിന്നീട് പറഞ്ഞു തരുന്നത്. സാന്ദർഭിക പ്രാധാന്യം കണക്കിലെടുക്കുമ്പോൾ ഒരു പദത്തിന് ഇന്നതാണ് അർത്ഥം എന്ന് പറയാനാവില്ല എന്ന് അദ്ദേഹം വ്യക്തമാക്കുന്നു. ഒരു പദം കേട്ടാൽ ഉടനെ മനസ്സിൽ വരുന്നതാണ് വാച്യാർത്ഥം. രാമനും കൃഷ്ണനും എന്ന പ്രയോഗവും അഞ്ജലി എന്ന പദവും ഉദാഹരിച്ച് അദ്ദേഹം ഇക്കാര്യം വ്യക്തമാക്കുന്നു. പദങ്ങളെ രൂഢം, യൗകികം, യോഗരൂഢം എന്ന് മൂന്നായി തിരിച്ച് വിവരിക്കാൻ അവസരം കണ്ടെത്തുന്നു. ഭർതൃഹരിയുടെ സ്ഫോടവാദത്തെക്കുറിച്ചാണ് പിന്നീട് വിവരിക്കുന്നത്. ഒരു വാക്യം ഒന്നായി, ഒരു സിമ്പലായി അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സ്ഫോടമായി എടുത്ത് ചിന്തിക്കണമെന്നാണ് സ്ഫോടവാദം പറയുന്നത്. ഭാഷ അറിയാവുന്നവർക്കിടയിൽ നടക്കുന്ന വ്യവഹാരത്തിന് ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നത് വാക്യങ്ങളാണ്, വർണ്ണങ്ങളോ പദങ്ങളോ അല്ല. അഖണ്ഡമായ വാക്യത്തെ മാത്രമാണ് ഉപയോഗിക്കുന്നത്. അതിനൊന്നിച്ചു ചേർന്ന ഒരു അർത്ഥമുണ്ടാകുന്നു. ഇതാണ് ഭർതൃഹരിയുടെ വാദമെന്ന് ചുരുക്കത്തിൽ പറഞ്ഞു വെക്കുന്നു. അഭിധയ്ക്കും ലക്ഷണയ്ക്കും പുറമെ വ്യഞ്ജനാവൃത്തി എന്നൊന്നുണ്ടെന്നും കാവ്യത്തിൽ അതിനാണ് പ്രാധാന്യമെന്നും ആനന്ദവർദ്ധനാചാര്യർ ചൂണ്ടിക്കാണിച്ചത് വ്യക്തമാക്കുന്നു. വാച്യാർത്ഥത്തെയും ലക്ഷ്യാർത്ഥത്തെയും സ്വീകരിച്ചുകൊണ്ടാണ് അദ്ദേഹം വ്യഞ്ജനാ വ്യാപാരത്തിന്റെ സഹായത്തോടുകൂടി ധ്വനി സിദ്ധാന്തം സ്ഥാപിച്ചതെന്നും ഡോക്ടർ രാജ വിശദമാക്കുന്നു. ശബ്ദബ്രഹ്മവാദത്തെക്കുറിച്ചും സ്ഫോടവാദത്തെക്കുറിച്ചും അദ്ദേഹം മറ്റൊരിടത്ത് വിശകലനം ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. ഭർതൃഹരിയുടേതെന്ന് പറയപ്പെടുന്ന പ്രസ്തുത വാദഗതികളെക്കുറിച്ച് സാമാന്യമായി വിശദീകരിക്കാൻ ഡോക്ടർ രാജ ശ്രമിക്കുന്നു. ശബ്ദതത്വമായ ബ്രഹ്മം അഖണ്ഡമാണെന്നും അവിദ്യ കാരണം ജനങ്ങൾ അതിനെ പലതായി കാണുന്നുവെന്നും വ്യക്തമാക്കാൻ അദ്ദേഹം അവസരം കണ്ടെത്തുന്നു. അഭിനവഗുപ്തൻ, ഗൗഡപാദർ, ശങ്കരാചാര്യർ എന്നിവരെക്കുറിച്ചും അവരുടെ വീക്ഷണങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ചും വിശദീകരിക്കുന്നു. ഭർതൃഹരിയുടെ സ്ഫോടവാദത്തെ ശങ്കരാചാര്യർ എതിർത്തിട്ടുണ്ടെന്നും എന്നാൽ പല ഭാഗങ്ങളിലും അനുകൂലിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടെന്നുമുള്ള ഡോക്ടർ ശ്രീകൃഷ്ണ ശർമ്മയുടെ വാദങ്ങളെയും ഡോക്ടർ രാജ പരിശോധിക്കുന്നു. ഇങ്ങനെയെല്ലാം ശബ്ദത്തെക്കുറിച്ചും ഭാഷയെക്കുറിച്ചും ഭാഷാശാസ്ത്രത്തെക്കുറിച്ചും എല്ലാം അവതരിപ്പിച്ച ശേഷമാണ് ഡോക്ടർ കുഞ്ചുണ്ണി രാജ കാവ്യഭാഷാ വിചിന്തനത്തിലേക്ക് തിരിയുന്നത്. പ്രതിഭാശാലിയായ ഒരു കവി സ്വന്തം ജീവിതാനുഭവങ്ങളിൽ തീവ്രവും ഗാഠവുമായ ഏതെങ്കിലും ഒരു അനുഭൂതിയെ ഭാവനയുടെ തീച്ചൂളയിൽ വെച്ച് ബോധപൂർവമോ അബോധപൂർവമോ ആയി ഊതി ഊതി പുടഭാഗം ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ വല്ലപ്പോഴും ഒരു കലാസൗന്ദര്യാനുഭൂതി മിന്നൽ പിണർ പോലെ മിന്നി മറയുന്നുവെന്നും ക്ഷണികമെങ്കിലും സമഗ്രവും സമ്പൂർണവും സാന്ദ്രാനന്ദാത്മകവുമായ ഈ അനുഭൂതി അയാളുടെ കലാസൗന്ദര്യ ബോധത്തെ വികസിപ്പിക്കുകയും അയാളെ ആഹ്ലാദ പുളകിതനാക്കി തീർക്കുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നു. താൻ ആസ്വദിച്ച ഈ ആനന്ദം കൂട്ടുകാർക്കും പകർന്നു കൊടുത്തേ കവിയുടെ ആത്മാവിന് തൃപ്തിയാകൂ. അതിന് വെമ്പൽ കൊള്ളുകയാണ് അയാളുടെ ഹൃദയം. സ്വന്തം കലാ സൗന്ദര്യാനുഭൂതിയെ സഹൃദയരായ അനുവാചകർക്ക് ഭാഷയുടെ മാധ്യമം വഴിയായി പകർന്നു കൊടുക്കാൻ ബോധപൂർവമോ അബോധപൂർവമോ കവി ശ്രമിക്കുമ്പോഴാണ് കാവ്യം ഉത്ഭവിക്കുന്നതെന്ന് അദ്ദേഹം പറഞ്ഞു തരുന്നു. സ്വന്തം അനുഭൂതിയെ ഭാഷയുടെ ചായം കൊണ്ട് വരച്ചു കാണിക്കാൻ കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ മാത്രമേ ഒരാൾ കവിയാവുകയുള്ളൂ എന്ന് പറയാനും അദ്ദേഹം മടിക്കുന്നില്ല. ആദി കവിയിൽ നിന്ന് ആരംഭിച്ച ഈ പ്രക്രിയ മലയാളത്തിൽ കുമാരനാശാനിലൂടെ കാണാൻ കഴിയുന്നത് എങ്ങനെയെന്ന് അദ്ദേഹം വിവരിക്കുന്നു. വേദോക്തങ്ങളായ സൂക്തങ്ങളിൽ ഇവ എങ്ങനെ സൂചിപ്പിക്കുന്നുവെന്നും അദ്ദേഹം വ്യക്തമാക്കുന്നു. വാമൊഴിയും വരമൊഴിയും രണ്ടാണെന്ന വസ്തുതയും എന്നാൽ അവ തമ്മിലുള്ള അടുപ്പം ശക്തമാണെന്നും പറയാൻ അദ്ദേഹം തയ്യാറാവുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇംഗ്ലീഷിലെയും സംസ്കൃതത്തിലെയും മലയാളത്തിലെയും പല ഉദാഹരണങ്ങളും അദ്ദേഹം ഉദ്ധരിക്കുന്നു. കുഞ്ചൻ നമ്പ്യാർ, പൂന്താനം, എഴുത്തച്ഛൻ, ആശാൻ, ഉള്ളൂർ, വള്ളത്തോൾ, ജി ശങ്കരക്കുറുപ്പ്, ഇടശ്ശേരി, കെ കെ രാജ തുടങ്ങി പല കവികളെയും അദ്ദേഹം ഉദാഹരിക്കുന്നുണ്ട്. ഇത്തരുണത്തിൽ ഭാഷാശാസ്ത്രവും കാവ്യഭാഷയും എങ്ങനെ നിരീക്ഷിക്കണമെന്ന് ഡോക്ടർ കുഞ്ചുണ്ണി രാജ പറഞ്ഞു തരുന്നു. സാഹിത്യവിദ്യയെ ഒരു കലയായി കണ്ട് ആസ്വദിക്കാനും വിലയിരുത്താനും പാശ്ചാത്യ വിമർശകന്മാർ പല മാനദണ്ഡങ്ങളും ഉപയോഗിച്ചു നോക്കിയെങ്കിലും അവർക്ക് തൃപ്തി വന്നില്ല. ഭാരതീയ സാഹിത്യ നിരൂപണ തത്വങ്ങളിലേക്ക് അവർ ശ്രദ്ധ തിരിച്ചു. ഈ സമയത്തും ഭാരതീയതയെ അവഹേളിക്കാനും പാശ്ചാത്യ രീതികളെ പിന്തുടരാനും പലരും ശാഠ്യം പിടിക്കുന്നതിനെ ഡോക്ടർ രാജ എതിർക്കുന്നു. സാഹിത്യ നിരൂപണത്തെ ഒരു ശാസ്ത്രം എന്ന നിലയ്ക്ക് വളർത്തിക്കൊണ്ടുവരാനാണ് സംസ്കൃത സാഹിത്യത്തിലെ കലാമർമ്മജ്ഞന്മാർ ശ്രമിച്ചിരുന്നതെന്ന് അദ്ദേഹം വ്യക്തമാക്കുന്നു. ശബ്ദ സൗഭാഗ്യത്തെയും ഉക്തി വൈചിത്ര്യത്തെയും മുൻനിർത്തിയുണ്ടായ പഠനങ്ങളും രസഭാവാനുഭൂതികളുടെയും സന്ധി സന്ധ്യംഗ ഘടനയുടെയും പ്രാധാന്യ പഠനങ്ങളും അടിസ്ഥാനമാക്കിയിരുന്നത് മറ്റൊന്നല്ല. ധിഷണാധനന്മാരായ ആധുനിക പണ്ഡിതന്മാർക്ക് പോലും ശരിയുത്തരം കണ്ടെത്താൻ കഴിഞ്ഞിട്ടില്ലാത്ത പല സാഹിത്യ പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾക്കും പ്രാചീന ഭാരതീയർ പണ്ടുതന്നെ വിശകലനം ചെയ്ത് പരിശോധിച്ച് തൃപ്തികരങ്ങളായ ഉത്തരങ്ങൾ കണ്ടെത്തിയിരുന്നുവെന്ന കാര്യവും ഡോക്ടർ രാജ സൂചിപ്പിക്കുന്നു. എന്താണ് സാഹിത്യം എന്നതിനെ കുറിച്ച് വിശദമായ ചർച്ചകൾ നടത്താനും സാഹിത്യത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് കൂടുതൽ ഗഹനങ്ങളായ തലങ്ങളിലേക്ക് കടക്കാനും ഈ തരുണത്തിൽ ഡോക്ടർ രാജ ശ്രമിക്കുന്നത് കാണാം. സ്വന്തം ജീവിതാനുഭൂതികളുടെ സഹായം കൂടാതെ തന്നെ പ്രതിഭാശാലിയായ ഒരു കവിക്ക് സുശക്തവും പ്രസ്പഷ്ടവുമായ ഭാവനാനുഭൂതി ഉണ്ടാകാമെന്നും അദ്ദേഹം തുടർന്ന് പറയുന്നു. കവിയും കാമുകനും ഭ്രാന്തനും സ്വപ്നജീവികളാണ്. അവരുടെ ഭാവനയിൽ കാണുന്ന സത്യവും ജീവിത യാഥാർത്ഥ്യവും തമ്മിൽ പൊരുത്തമുണ്ടാകണമെന്നില്ല. ഒന്നാം തരം വിശ്വസാഹിത്യ കൃതികൾ വായിച്ച് രസിച്ച് സാത്മ്യം പ്രാപിച്ച ഒരു കവിക്ക് ആ കൃതികളിലെ ജീവിതം സ്വന്തം ജീവിതാനുഭവങ്ങളെക്കാൾ ദുർബലമാവുകയില്ല. അനുഭൂതികൾക്ക് വേണ്ടി മദ്യശാലകളും വേശ്യാത്തെരുവുകളും ആശ്രയിക്കുന്നവരും വിദേശയാത്ര നടത്തുന്നവരും കാവ്യോൽപത്തിയുടെ മർമ്മം മനസ്സിലാക്കാത്തവരാണെന്ന് ഡോക്ടർ രാജയുടെ അഭിപ്രായം. സാമൂഹ്യ ജീവിതത്തിലെ വ്യവഹാര ഭാഷയിൽ ആശയവിനിമയത്തിന് വേണ്ട 5 ധർമ്മങ്ങൾ ചൂണ്ടിക്കാണിച്ച ശേഷം കാവ്യഭാഷയ്ക്ക് അതിന്റെ ആവശ്യമില്ലെന്നും വ്യക്തമാക്കുന്നു. കാവ്യഭാഷയിൽ കവികൾ ബോധപൂർവമായും അബോധപൂർവമായും വരുത്തുന്ന വ്യതിയാനങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ചും അദ്ദേഹം പ്രസ്താവിക്കുന്നു. കാവ്യഭാഷയെക്കുറിച്ചും സാഹിത്യ വിമർശനത്തെക്കുറിച്ചും അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് വ്യക്തമായ കാഴ്ചപ്പാടുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. ജനസാമാന്യത്തിന്റെ വ്യവഹാര ഭാഷയിൽ നിന്ന് എന്തോ ഒരു വ്യതിയാനം കാവ്യഭാഷയ്ക്കുണ്ട് എന്നത് അനുഭവവേദ്യമായിരിക്കെ ആ ഭാഷയെ സമീപിക്കുമ്പോൾ വേണ്ടത്ര മുൻകരുതലുകൾ ആവശ്യമാണ് എന്ന് അദ്ദേഹം വ്യക്തമാക്കുന്നു. കാവ്യത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് സംസ്കൃത ആചാര്യന്മാരുടെ വീക്ഷണങ്ങളുടെയും അഭിപ്രായങ്ങളുടെയും പശ്ചാത്തലത്തിൽ സംസ്കൃതത്തിലെയും മലയാളത്തിലെയും നിരവധി കവിതകൾ ഉദാഹരണങ്ങളായി ഉദ്ധരിച്ച് എന്താണ് കവിതയെന്ന് മനസ്സിലാക്കി തരാൻ ഡോക്ടർ രാജ ശ്രമിക്കുന്നു. അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ വാക്കുകൾ ശ്രദ്ധിക്കുക. നിത്യനൂതനത്വമാണ് ഉത്തമകാവ്യത്തിന്റെ വ്യക്തിമുദ്ര. ഒരു കാവ്യം സമഗ്രമായി എടുത്ത് പഠിച്ച് ഒന്നായിട്ട് വേണം വിലയിരുത്തുന്നത് എന്നും സന്ധ്യംഗ ഘടന ഇതിവൃത്തത്തെ സംബന്ധിച്ചും രസങ്ങളുടെ അംഗാംഗിഭാവ ഘടന രസത്തെ സംബന്ധിച്ചും സശ്രദ്ധം സംഘടിപ്പിക്കണമെന്നും ആനന്ദവർദ്ധനാചാര്യരും കുന്തകനും മറ്റും ചൂണ്ടിക്കാണിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. പ്രബന്ധത്തെ ഒന്നായി മൗലിക ഘടകമായി എടുത്താണ് സംസ്കൃത ആചാര്യന്മാർ നിരൂപണം ചെയ്തിരുന്നത് എന്നതിന് സംശയമില്ല. പ്രബന്ധത്തിന്റെ ജീവനും സൗന്ദര്യവും സർവവ്യാപിയാണെന്നും ഓരോ വിശദാംശങ്ങളിലും കവിയും സഹൃദയനും ശ്രദ്ധിക്കേണ്ടതാണെന്നും അവർ വ്യക്തമാക്കി. നമ്മുടെ സഹൃദയരായ സാഹിത്യ നിരൂപകന്മാർ ഈ പൈതൃകം ഏറ്റെടുത്ത് ഉപയോഗിക്കുമെങ്കിൽ മേൽക്കുമേൽ ഉയരുവാൻ കഴിയും. സാഹിത്യവും അതിനനുസരിച്ചുള്ള ഉത്കൃഷ്ടതയിലേക്കെത്തും. ഇത് പറയുമ്പോഴാണ് കവിയും സഹൃദയനും എങ്ങനെയായിരിക്കണമെന്ന ചിന്ത ഉയരുന്നത്. കവിയും സഹൃദയനും തമ്മിൽ സംവാദമുണ്ടാകുമ്പോൾ മാത്രമാണ് കവിത സാർത്ഥകമാകുന്നത് എന്ന് അദ്ദേഹം തുറന്നു പറയുന്നു. സരസ്വത്യാസ്തത്വം കവി സഹൃദയാഖ്യം വിജയത്തെ എന്ന വാക്യം ഉദ്ധരിക്കുകയും ചെയ്യുന്നു. വക്താവും ശ്രോതാവും തമ്മിൽ സംവാദമുണ്ടാകുമ്പോഴേ ഭാഷയും സാർത്ഥകമാവുകയുള്ളൂ. ഇത് വൈദിക കാലം മുതൽക്കേ നിലനിന്നു വരുന്ന വിശ്വാസവും തത്വവുമാണ്. ജീവിതാനുഭൂതി തന്നെയാണ് കലാനുഭൂതിക്കുള്ള അസംസ്കൃത വസ്തു. ഭാവനാനുഭൂതിയുടെ സഹായത്തോടെ ജീവിതാനുഭൂതി കലാനുഭൂതിയായി കവിയിൽ പരിണമിക്കുന്നു. ആവിഷ്കരണ സാമർഥ്യമില്ലാത്ത ആസ്വാദകൻ അത് കണ്ടെത്തുന്നു, ആസ്വദിക്കുന്നു. ഈ പരിണാമ പ്രക്രിയയെ ഭാഷയുടെ ചായം കൊണ്ട് മനോഹരമായി വരച്ചു കാണിക്കുന്നതിലാണ് കവിയുടെ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സാഹിത്യകാരന്റെ മികവ് പ്രകടമാകുന്നത്. സത്യത്തെ മറയ്ക്കുന്ന മൂടുപടമല്ല ഭാഷയെന്നും ശാശ്വത സത്യത്തിലേക്കുള്ള മാർഗം കാണിച്ചു തരുന്ന ഒരേയൊരു ദീപമാണതെന്നും ഭാരതീയ ആചാര്യന്മാർ കണ്ടെത്തിയിരുന്നു. ഭാഷാ പഠനത്തിൽ സ്വീകരിക്കേണ്ട ശ്രദ്ധയും അതിന്റെ രീതികളും അതിന്റെ ആവശ്യകതയും അദ്ദേഹം വ്യക്തമാക്കുന്നു. കവിക്കുണ്ടായതുപോലെ കലാസൗന്ദര്യാനുഭൂതി വായനക്കാരനിൽ ഉണ്ടാകണമെങ്കിൽ വായനക്കാരനും കവിയെപ്പോലെ ഭാഷാ മർമ്മജ്ഞനും സാഹിത്യ രസികനുമായ സഹൃദയനായിരിക്കണം. ഭാഷാ പാണ്ഡിത്യമില്ലായ്മയും നല്ല സാഹിത്യകൃതികളോടുള്ള പരിചയക്കുറവും കവിതാസ്വാദനത്തിന് തടസ്സം സൃഷ്ടിക്കുക തന്നെ ചെയ്യും. ജന്മസിദ്ധം മാത്രമല്ല ഈ കഴിവെന്ന് സാരം. ആസ്വാദകനും അഭ്യാസ പ്രക്രിയ ആവശ്യമാണെന്നും അർത്ഥം. ഭാരതീയ കലകളുടെ ജീവനായ രസത്തെക്കുറിച്ച് പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടാണ് അദ്ദേഹം ഈ ചിന്തകൾക്ക് താൽക്കാലികമായ വിരാമമിടുന്നത്. പതഞ്ജലിയും രസികോ നടഹ എന്ന പ്രയോഗവും അദ്ദേഹം അനുസ്മരിക്കുന്നു. രസം സ്വതതേ നടഹ എന്ന ശാർഗദേവന്റെ രസഗംഗാധരത്തിലെ പ്രയോഗവും അഭിനവഗുപ്തന്റെ ഗുരുനാഥനായ ഭട്ടതൗതന്റെ സമാനാനുഭവം ഉണ്ടാകുന്നത് എങ്ങനെയെന്ന വിവരണവും ഇവയെക്കുറിച്ചുള്ള വാദപ്രതിവാദങ്ങളും സാമാന്യം വിശദമായി തന്നെ സ്വോദാഹരണം വിവരിക്കാൻ ഡോക്ടർ കുഞ്ചൻ രാജ തയ്യാറാവുന്നുണ്ട്. രസികൻ, ആസ്വാദകൻ, സഹൃദയൻ എന്നീ പദങ്ങളോടൊപ്പം തന്നെ നിരൂപകൻ, വിമർശകൻ എന്നീ പദങ്ങളെക്കുറിച്ചും അദ്ദേഹം വിവരിക്കുന്നു. കവികൾക്ക് എങ്ങനെ നല്ല കവിതകൾ എഴുതണമെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കൊടുക്കാനും സാമാന്യ ജനങ്ങൾക്ക് എങ്ങനെ കവിത ആസ്വദിക്കണമെന്ന് വ്യക്തമാക്കി കൊടുക്കാനുമാണ് തന്റെ പ്രയത്നമെന്ന് ആനന്ദവർദ്ധനാചാര്യർ ധ്വന്യാലോകത്തിൽ പറയുന്നു എന്നും അദ്ദേഹം പറഞ്ഞു വെക്കുന്നു. വ്യാഖ്യാതാക്കൾ സാഹിത്യ ശാസ്ത്രജ്ഞരും ഭാഷാശാസ്ത്രജ്ഞരും നിരൂപകരുമാണ്. കാവ്യം ശാസ്ത്രീയമായി വിശകലനം ചെയ്ത് വിലയിരുത്തുവാനുള്ള വ്യഗ്രതയിൽ ചിലപ്പോൾ കവിതയുടെ ജീവൻ തികച്ചും കാണാതെ പോയെന്ന് വരാം. കാവ്യം വിശകലനം ചെയ്ത് പഠിച്ചാൽ മാത്രം പോരാ, സമഗ്രമായി വിലയിരുത്തുകയും വേണമെന്ന് ആചാര്യന്മാർ ഊന്നിപ്പറയുന്നത് അതുകൊണ്ടാണ്. ഭാഷയുടെ ശാസ്ത്രീയമായ പഠനങ്ങളും സാഹിത്യത്തിന്റെ പഠനങ്ങളും അനിവാര്യങ്ങളാണെന്നും അവയിൽ ഇന്നത്തെ വിദ്യാർത്ഥികൾ ശ്രദ്ധാലുക്കളാകേണ്ടത് ആവശ്യമാണെന്നും ഡോക്ടർ രാജ പറയുന്നു. ദക്ഷിണാശാലിയും മഹർഷി തുല്യനുമായ ഡോക്ടർ കുഞ്ഞുണ്ണി രാജാവിന്റെ സ്മരണയ്ക്ക് മുമ്പിൽ ആദരാഞ്ജലികൾ അർപ്പിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് എനിക്കിവിടെ സംസാരിക്കാൻ അവസരം തന്നവർക്ക് ഒന്നുകൂടി നന്ദി രേഖപ്പെടുത്തിക്കൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ എൻ്റെ വാക്കുകൾ ഉപസംഹരിക്കുന്നു. നന്ദി, നമസ്കാരം.
Thank you, Dr. Ravindra Raja. I think all the listeners, normally they have followed the paper presented in Malayalam. Dr. Ravindra Raja has attempted very skillfully to present the gist of the book, the cream of the text, Bhasha Darshanam, in a very practical way, and he has presented the gamut of the text in such a way that which can very easily can be followed by a language student. I express my thanks to Dr. Ravindra Raja. He has done a wonderful work in this paper, and sometimes it is in Malayalam. That is why it is a Malayalam book. That is why he presented in Malayalam. That is a propriety. Anyway, I thank him for his very scholarly presentation. Now we move to the next and the last paper in the session. Dr. K. Ravindran, as I told you earlier, he is the translator of the book Indian Theories of Meaning into Malayalam. So I think Dr. Ravindran is talking on theories of meaning, traditional and modern approach. Dr. Raja very cleverly, he has trained very well in British linguistics, the Western linguistics, strictly speaking British linguistics under John Pruff and the great linguist, world linguist, Professor Firth. So Dr. Raja has very cleverly used the modern theories of linguistics while analyzing the traditional theories of linguistics in Indian Theories of Meaning. This has been told several times. Yesterday in my speech, that was the main domain of my discussion. Professor Ramankutti also spoke today, and Professor Kudumba Shastri earlier as the chairman, he spoke on this matter. So this is the matter which is going to be deliberated by Dr. K. Ravindran. I invite my friend Dr. K. Ravindran to present his paper.
Thank you, sir.
Namaskar. Namaskar.
Namaste. Honorable President of this session, Professor Kudumba Shastri, my teacher, P.V. Ramankutti, Sri Ravindra Raja, Professor Murali Madhavan, other dignitaries, my friends and colleagues, pranams to all. First of all, I am grateful to Professor Murali Madhavan for giving an opportunity to present a paper in this international conference. The topic of my paper is Theories of Meaning, Traditional and Modern Approach. With your permission, I read my paper. The concept of meaning is one of the most powerful and stimulating branches of linguistics. It was found problematic and complicated too for a long period.
Yeah.
Both Eastern and Western scholars have paid much attention to its study. The Indian thinkers Yaska, Jaimini, Bhartrhari, Prabhakara, Kumarilabhatta, Anandavardhana, and Abhinavagupta too, to mention a few, have discussed this subject with priority. Their contributions were the milestones of the language studies held in India. The extraordinary innovations and observations of these scholars helped considerably to clarify the word meaning issue. In the West also, this was a subject of discussion. This paper is an humble attempt to study the theories of meaning put forward by scholars of India. The two approaches. One can meet with the two different approaches to the study of the problem of meaning in Indian thought, the Khandapaksha and Akhandapaksha. Khandapaksha, the analytical method, considered the word as, to quote, an autonomous unit of thought and sense, and that language studies are made on the basis of words, unquote. Again, in the early stages of linguistic studies in India, as elsewhere, attention is found focused on individual words and their isolated meanings. The idea that an individual word possesses an individual word meaning is current in all schools of thought, Indian philosophy in ancient times. The Akhandapaksha advocated by Bhartrhari took that fundamental linguistic fact is the sentence. He defines the sentence as a single integral symbol. The advocates of both these theories were focused mainly on the clarification of concept of meaning. Among those who accepted the reality of words, there developed two different views regarding the nature of verbal comprehension arising from a sentence. The Abhidhanvaya theory put forward by some Nayayikas and Bhatta school of Mimamsakas, and the Nidabhidhana theory evolved by the Prabhakara school of Mimamsakas. Besides them, later on, a third group, the Anubhayavadins, was also developed. Spoda, the linguistic symbol. One of the remarkable contributions of India to linguistic studies is the Spoda theory put forward by Bhartrhari. It was Patanjali who mentioned the term Spoda for the first time. He distinguished between Spoda and Dhvani, the two aspects of words, and considered the former as the permanent element in a word and the latter as an attribute of the former. Spoda Shabda, Dhvanistu Shabdaguna. These are respectively analogous to Prakrita-dhvani and Vaikrita-dhvani. It is to be noted here that this division is supposed to have been made by Vyadi, a great grammarian, earlier than Katyayana and Patanjali, who is the author of the text Sangraha, which is irrecoverably lost. He is mentioned by Katyayana and Patanjali and later grammarians. Scholars are of opinion that Vakyapadiya contains some quotations from that work even. Bhartrhari gives very minute analysis of the speech situation in his theory on Spoda. The introduction of three concepts, Vaikrita-dhvani, Prakrita-dhvani, and Spoda, contributed much to the study of meaning in the later period. Vaikrita-dhvani is the actual sound spoken by the speaker and heard by the hearer. It includes all the various differences in intonation, tempo, pitch, etc., depending upon the individual speakers. Prakrita-dhvani is the phonological structure, the normal sound pattern. Spoda is the unit of meaning, but cannot be pronounced or written. It can be considered as the acoustic image of the normal expression or the expression in the mind, and as an integral meaning-bearing linguistic sign. According to Bhartrhari, the speech principle has three stages: Pasyanti, Madhyama, and Vaikhari. Pasyanti is the supreme reality, the Shabda Brahman, and is equivalent to Spoda, and has been identified with Pratibha, the flash of insight or principles of consciousness. The Madhyama, or utterance in its phonological structure, corresponds to Prakrita-dhvani and is psychological in nature. Vaikhari is the last stage and corresponds to the Vaikrita-dhvani. It is the actual sound uttered by the speaker and heard by the listener. The Pratibhijna school of philosophy accepted 4 stages in the manifestation of Shabda Brahman. they added Paravag as the fourth one, which is identical with Pasyanti stage of Bhartrihari's system. Ityakuste param brahma yadanadi tathaksharam tadaksharam shabdarupam sa Pasyanti para hivak. Shivadrashti. It is said here that Pasyanti is the absolute of the grammarians. The Pratibhijna Hridaya of Kshemaraja asserts this and says, Sabda Brahmamayam Pasyanti Rupam Atmatattvam iti Vyagarana. To Bhartrihari, there is no higher stage than Pasyanti. Buddhists and Jains on meaning. The Buddhists also accept the relation between Shabda and Artha, but explains it through the theory of Apoha. They maintain that the essence of meaning is negative in character and that words have no direct reference to objective relatives. The meaning of a word, according to them, is a conceptual image whose essence is the negation of all its counter correlates, Anyapoha. Thus, the word cow does not mean that particular animal with external features, but it means only the exclusion of all objects that are not the cow. The Jaina philosophers also are of opinion that the primary sense of a word is akriti, or the shape. A word like cow does not mean a particular cow. The word applies to all the animals with general shape, but this concept was criticized strongly by others. The Mimamsa contribution. The Mimamsakas contributed worthfully to the language studies. The three conditions, Akanksha, Yogyata, and Sannidhi, for Shabda Godha were first formulated by Mimamsakas. Later on, they were accepted by other schools also with slight modifications. The analysis of a sentence by dividing it into two parts, the Uddeshya and the Vidheya, by them was a further step to the linguistic study. They hold that Talparya of a sentence is found in the Vidheya portion only. From the speaker's standpoint, it is enough if the Vidheya only is uttered. Anvyudhabhidhana and Abhidhanaya theories. The early mentioned Anvyudhabhidhana and Abhidhanaya theories regarding the verbal comprehension also is a remarkable contribution of Mimamsakas. It is obvious that each word has a definite meaning, but it is also clear that the purpose of the word is to serve as part of the sentence. On hearing the words of a sentence, we get a unitary sense, which is the meaning of the sentence. The problem is whether this unitary sentence arises directly from the collection of the words or indirectly through the recollection of the meanings of the individual words, those comprise it. The Anvyudhabhidhana theory takes the former view, while the Abhidhanaya theory takes the latter. According to Anvyudhabhidhana theory, the sentence has a unitary meaning of its own. The constituent words possess meaning only as they are related to this unitary sentence meaning. Thus, in a sentence, bring the cow, the word cow means not the isolated concept of cowness, but cow as related to the action of bringing. Similarly, the word bring means the action of bringing in relation to the cow. The words give their own meaning and their syntactic relation to the other words in a sentence so that the sentence meaning is directly conveyed by the words themselves. They say that there is only one potency for words to express the meaning as related to the rest of the words. It is through recollection that one remembers the meanings of words, and this is by arousing the mental impressions of previous experiences of the use of the words. Thus, according to this theory, each word as it is being uttered contributes to the meaning of the sentence, which is revealed step by step, becoming clearer and clearer with the utterance of subsequent words. Abhinavagupta refers to the Anvyudhabhidhana theory and calls it as Dirghavyavaravada, as there is no limit to the extent of the meaning that an expression can convey according to this theory. The followers of Abhidhanvaya theory, the Bhattas, on the other hand, postulates that individual words have in themselves meaning which can be comprehended separately. On hearing a sentence, we have first an understanding of the separate meanings of the words, one after the other. Then by putting together these meanings according to the three factors, Akanksha, Yogyata, and Sannidhi, one can arrive at the meaning of the sentence. The meaning obtained by such an association of three factors brings some additional signification which is distinct from the totality of the word meaning. This unified sentence meaning is known by different connotations such as Vakyartha, Samsarga, and Talparyartha. The Bhashya of Sabara on Sutra 1125 seems to refer to this theory. The primary meaning, Abhida. This is the conventional sense that is directly related to the word. It is a well-known meaning developed through constant usage and is definite and fixed. It can be learned objectively by anyone from the lexicon. It is called Vachyartha. There are different opinions regarding the nature of this meaning, that whether it is universal or particular. Mimamsakas hold that it is universal, whereas the modern Nayayikas consider it as particular. Advaitavadins also accept the view of Mimamsakas. The Anvyadhavidhanavadins consider that Abhida is the only Vyapara. According to them, in a sentence, a word conveys not only its own individual meaning, but also its relation to the words in the sentence. The samsarga, or the mutual relation of the words, word meaning, suggested by their juxtaposition in the sentence, is also included in the primary meaning itself. In certain contexts, the word may suggest new ideas beyond its normal sense, but all those come under Abhida itself. But Anandavardhana, attacking this view on the basis of Abhidanvaya theory, says that the suggested sense cannot be conveyed by Abhida. The power of the primary meaning of a word is exhausted when its task is over. Padanihi swam artham abhidhaya nivritta vyaparani. Sentence meaning cannot be expressed through primary function alone. Another function, expressed sense, the Vingyartha, has to be accepted to explain the suggested meaning. It can be appreciated only by the men of taste. Vidyadetu sadu kavyartha tattvajnaireva kevalam. Metaphor, the extended meaning. Metaphoric usage is another important aspect as far as meaning is concerned. It is the secondary function of the word. It is known by different names such as Lakshana, Upachara, Gauni, and Bhakti. It is not directly understood from a word, but indirectly to the primary or normal meaning. It is a normal meaning that comes to the mind of the listener immediately on hearing a word. When this is found to be incompatible with the context, one goes to the secondary meaning. It provides the actual sense which is related to the normal one and which removes all incompatibilities in understanding the idea behind the word uttered. This transferred meaning is not got immediately and directly from the word, but only to the primary meaning. Thus, conditions for metaphor are one, inapplicability or unsuitability of primary meaning in the context. Second, some relation between the primary and actual referent of the word. And third, sanction for the transferred sense by proper usage or a definite motive justifying the transfer. The suggested sense, Dhvani. It was the Spoda theory developed by Bhartrhari that helped Anandavardhana to develop the Dhvani theory. He, in addition to the primary and secondary meanings, introduced a third potency of language, which is called the capacity to suggest a meaning other than its literal meaning. This capacity, suggestive power of language, is called Vyanjana. He says that utterances possess a literal meaning and can also convey a further meaning. The socio-cultural meaning includes everything other than the literal meaning. To him, the meaning not only includes information conveyed, but also emotions infused. He further said that, along with words and sentences, the contextual factors, the intonation, stress, and gesture are the indicators of full meaning of a sentence. In other words, both Vajagas and the Bodhagas form part of language. He omits many of the elements of speech activity since he is concerned only with the poetic language. According to him, between the literal and implied ideas, Vachyartha and Pratiyamanartha of poetry, the latter is more beautiful and depends on the whole poem, not merely on its parts. Pratiyamanam, the suggested sense can be of three types: an idea, a figure of speech, or an emotion. This is the sole and most important element in poetry. It is not understood by those who know mere grammar and lexicon, but by those who have the taste to know the essence of poetry. Talparyartha, a separate vritti, which is already discussed by Professor Kudumba Shastri, even then a small paragraph. Abhinavakta was the first Alangariga who referred to the Talparya as a separate vritti. He accepts 4 distinct functions of words: Abhida, Talparya, Lakshana, and Vyanjana. According to him, the individual words by their function, primary function, refer only to the isolated word meanings in a sentence. The syntactic relation of these is conveyed by the Talparya Shakti of the words. It is the power of words to convey the syntactic relation among the various isolated word meanings. Bhoja accepts Talparya Vritti and divides it into 3: expressed Vachya, implied Pradiyamana, and suggested Dhvani-Rupa. In the case of verbal comprehension, he follows the path of the Anubhayavadins, which I have already mentioned, who rejects the both Anvidabhidana and Abhidhanvaya theories and prefer the third view, according to which words convey the sentence meaning by their cumulative effect or samhatyakarita. The Nayayiga Jayanta Bhatta in Nyayamanjari attributes this cumulative effect to Talparya Shakti of words. As mentioned earlier, this Talparya Shakti is the same as the Samsarga Maryada accepted by Navya Nyaya school. Let me conclude my paper. Let me conclude this small paper by mentioning the names of some Indian scholars of modern period who took part in the discussion of on this topic. P.C. Chakravarti, through his 2 treatises, The Linguistic Speculation of the Hindus and Philosophy of Sanskrit Grammar, showed to the modern world a glimpse of the vast treasure of contribution of India to the linguistic problem. D.M. Datta, The 6 Ways of Knowing, Jagannath Shah, Purvamimamsa in its sources, S.C. Chatterjee, The Nyaya Theory of Knowledge, V.A. Ramaswamy Shastri, Introduction to Tattvabindu, K.M. Sharma, Walk Before Bhartrhari, D.H.H. Ingalls, Materials for the Study of Navya Nyaya Logic, Professor Siddheshwar Verma, The Etymologies of Yaska, B.K. Matilal, The Word and the World are some of them. Thus, India contributed enormously to the aspect of meaning. This is my small paper. Thanks to all. Thank you. മാഷെ കേൾക്കുന്നില്ലല്ലോ? മാഷ് മൈക്ക് ഓൺ ചെയ്യൂ.
Thank you, Ravindran. Is it audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. And now we have completed our papers. Now this is the time for deliberation. We had some 4 papers now, and I request all the papers are put for discussion, open for discussion. I invite the participants to give their comments, their criticisms, their omissions and commissions and other things, whatever in the fashion the question may be. I request the participants to come forward to express their opinion about the papers.
Can I add a word? Can I?
Yes. Yeah, why not? You can.
It is about the paper presented by Kudumba Shastri, a brilliant presentation. He was speaking of the Tatparya Shakti in Sanskrit.
Yes.
And Dr. V also referred to Tatparya Shakti. And it is one of the topics to which Raja deals at length in Indian theories of meaning.
Yeah.
In Dhvanyaloka, in the last portion of first chapter, he divides Dhvani into Avivakshitavaya Dhvani and Vivakshitanyavaravaya Dhvani. That is Abhida Mula Dhvani. It is while explaining this Abhida Mula Dhvani in Lojana that Abhinavata recognizes Tatparya Shakti. The meaning of Shikharani Kunama Kiyachiram. And in order to attain this meaning, suggestive meaning, it is obtained only by means of Tatparya Shakti, the meaning. Then only the suggestive meaning will be obtained or can be obtained from this sloka.
That you mean that Tatparya Shakti is a strong instrument
yes,
for unveiling the Dhvani.
there are scholars who do not recognize Satparishakti.
And that is
There
another
are
issue.
scholars who do not know that it is a vritti at all, not a power of. But Abhinavata recognizes it because he takes pains. Abhinavata takes pains to explain the Abhidhamulatva of this particular sloka. It's very difficult. So he brings in Tatparishakti there in order to attain the suggested meaning. That's very simple. This is only one point I will and Dr. Ravi and Dr. Kudumbashastri were effectively dealing with this. Kudumbashastri especially dealing with this Tatparishakti, which Raja has dealt with at length in this theory of meaning. It's a very significant point in that book of theory of meaning. Thank you very much.
Professor Ramankutti, actually there is the hot exchanges between Annidabhidhana Vadins and Abhidhana Vadins, and that is not going to end. Still there is in modern time in our group, there is two groups, very strong.
Well, I have one, I am really beholden to Dr. Ramankutti Saab's very good remarks. Yes, Raja also discusses all these points. That's what I attempted to place forth. With regard to Anvita Abhidhana and Abhitanvayavada, the crux of the problem is, according to me, both are valid in their place.
Yeah.
With regard to the first learning of any language, that is a child when child grasps his or her mother tongue.
Yeah.
Anvita Abhidhana holds better than Anvita Abhitanvaya. Whereas once you understand the language through Anvita Abhidhana, Abhitanvayavada holds good to better to explain the whole thing. Therefore, my submission and my observation with regard to these two very ferociously fighting theories, Prabhakaras and Bhattas never yield to others. But in my sincere point of view, when I paid some attention, I wrote something elsewhere. I think that these two theories are mutually complementary. Complementary, especially with regard to the new language learning and the second language learning. Anvita Abhidhana holds good. Never Abhitanvayavada can replace it. And after learning the language, once you learn 3-4 years, the child learns the language. Then there is no big need of Anvita Abhidhana, it is only Abhitanvaya. If we take like that, I think at least I took it in my mind, right or wrong. Thank you.
Yes. Any other comments?
I wish I express for some time, because it is all full. Kutti Sahab's presentation is more on modern linguistics, with which I am not really, I do not know anything there to say, Sasar and all that. But anyway, I followed what he presented, whereas Ravindran Sahab has really gleaned through the whole of Indian theories of meanings in a very systematic way. I compliment Mr. Ravindran and his insightful thought on Sphotovada as well as other theories and all that. I felt happy. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, what shall we do now? Any more questions?
Any more questions? The participants, please, if they want to raise any question, this is the time. I think nobody responds. I think things are very clear. Things are very clear.
Srinivasa Narayana raised hand.
Yeah, surely. Please, Srinivasa Narayana, please talk.
Acharya, namaskara.
Namaskara.
Acharyapadaiः कुटुम्बशास्त्रिवर्यैः तद् होमो मोनोस् इति किञ्चित् मॉडर्न् लिङ्ग्विस्टिक्स् मध्ये किञ्चित् टर्म् उक्तमस्ति। तद् महाभाष्यकारैः कुत्रचित् उल्लिखितम् इति किमपि फुट्नोट्स् अस्ति इति उक्तमस्ति। नाम होमो मोनोस् नाम अहं सम्यक् न जानामि तद् वक्तुं।
अहमपि अधिकं न जानामि। महाभाष्यपङ्क्तिं राजा महोदयः न तद् अतीव गम्भीरं किमपि नास्ति. I read the whole passage. I read the whole paragraph. You yourself understand. It is a simple concept. An interesting problem about the exact nature of homonyms is discussed by the Indian grammarians. Are we to consider them as the same word with different senses, or as different words having the same sound? You see, homonym is a linguistic paribhasha. Tatra शब्दस्वरूपमेकम् अर्थद्वयं नानार्थकशब्दः इति अथवा एकस्यार्थस्य प्रतिपादनार्थं शब्दस्वरूपद्वयम् अनयोर्द्वयोर्मध्ये होमोनिम् इति किम् उच्यते कुत्र सङ्गतं भवति इति वदति. Are we to consider them homonyms as the same word with different senses, or as different words having the same sound? Both views are known to Punyaraja. Both the views are known. Punyaraja calls them the one-word theory, Eka Shabda Darshana, and the many words theory, Aneka Shabda Darshana. These are analogous to what some of the modern linguistics call homonyms and homophones. Now, Bhashya Pankti I read, Yetacha Bheda Bheda Swabhavam Darshanadvayam Shabdanam Bhashyakarena Vartika Vyakyanavasare Darshitam is by Punyaraja.
Sir, can you repeat that this Bhashya Pankti?
No, not Bhashya Pankti. I think it is Punyaraja's.
Punyaraja, sir. Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that?
No, he says that according to Bhartrhari, these two theories are referred to by Patanjali himself in the Mahabhashya. Yeah, it is Bhashya Pankti.
No, it is Edacha, then what it is? Veda Bheda.
Veda Bheda Swabhavam Darshanadvayam.
Oh, yes.
Shabdanam Bhashyakarena Vartika Vyakyanavasare Darshitam.
Darshitam.
I think it is Punyaraja's line.
Punyaraja's line.
एकमाहुरनेकार्थं शब्दमन्ये परीक्षकाः इति वाक्यपदीयश्लोकस्य व्याख्याने पुण्यराज
maybe
Punyarajaha.
yeah. Samichinam.
धन्यवादः आचार्य.
Namaskar.
Any other question? Some people, they have some Wi-Fi problems.
Yeah.
They have given message to us that because of Wi-Fi they cannot ask questions. So let it be. Anyway, if this is over, we will switch over this session. And Professor Ravindran, if you want to say something.
No, sir, please.
Let us conclude. I think I forgot to tell one thing about Professor Kudumba Shastriji. That about Rajaprabha Puraskar, that is only I told you in between. But there is a great Sangeetajna in him. He is a very good musician. Whenever I meet, I want to at least to get. I heard he reciting Smrtapi Taruna Tapam Karunaya Harandinana. Then while coming to Guruvayur, we went together to Guruvayurappan to visit Guruvayur temple, and coming back in the function, he recited Sandrananda Avabodhalmakam. So it was a wonderful experience. I have a request, and we have time. We are 15 minutes ahead now. So I have a request that Professor Kudumba Shastri may sing one shloka at least for the entire sake, because that is a good good experience of a kavya.
Okay, thank you so much for your kind sentiments and good words. You are always have some good words reserved for me.
For everybody.
It's not my merit, it's your sahrdayata. In any case, now Pradosha, Mahapradosha is going on.
Yeah.
So I take one opportunity to recite a shloka on Paramashiva. तारानायक शेखराय जगदाधाराय धाराधरच्छायाधारक कंधराय गिरिजासंगैक शृंगारिणे तारानायक शेखराय जगदाधाराय धाराधर छायाधारक कंधराय गिरिजा संगैक शृंगारिणे नद्या शेखरिणे दृशा तिलकिने नारायणे नास्त्रिणे नागैः कङ्कणिने नगेन गृहिणे नाथाय सेयं नतिः नाथाय सेयं नतिः
तारानायक शेखराय जगदाधाराय धाराधरच्छायाधारकगन्धराय गिरिजासङ्गैक शृङ्गारिणे नद्या शेखरिणे दृशा तिलकिने नारायणेनास्त्रिणे नागैः कङ्कणिने नगेन गृहिणे नाथाय सेयं नतिः. വളരെ മംഗളമായി, very auspiciously you have concluded this session as chairman. I was very anxious to, actually I want to tell you in the beginning to start with a sloga, and but due to several things I forgot that. That happened.
No,
Anyway.
I wanted to start with only Yogindranam, something like that.
Yeah.
But what happened, time was pressing.
Yeah, time
There was
constraint,
a long
yeah.
paper to go. And as a chairman, I once again congratulate Professor Dr. Raman Kutti and Dr. Ravindra Raja. I followed his complete presentation.
Yeah.
It was in Malayalam. It is full of Sanskritized Malayalam.
Yeah.
I was able to follow it.
Yeah.
And Dr. Ravindran also I express my compliments and congratulations to all the three speakers. And as well as I express my great indebtedness to the Kunjuni Raja Institute of Indological Research for giving me this opportunity. Not first time, many in the series of opportunities to participate in their functions, and especially to Rajendran sir,
Yeah.
Girishan sir,
Girish. Raja's son. Yeah.
Raja's son and Girishan sir, and also Professor Murali Madhavan, especially because of whom I am associated with it, I must say it, because of our friendship. And to all those when I saw yesterday the list of names and some of the participants' names as well as some pictures on the screen, I felt that I am in Mylapore today. Because it is a big, the Raja's students are numerous, very big number, because he was professor there in Madras Sanskrit, Madras University for so many decades. He has got good number of students, and every one of his student is very worthy of his knowledge and his contribution to Sanskrit. C.S. Radhakrishnan and several others I was able to see yesterday. And then I felt that I am at home because I was closely associated with Madras during my formative years.
You are nostalgic.
Very nostalgic because I wanted to say, Rajas, you see, Raghavan Saab, once he enters into his room, nobody bothers that he will not come out of the room till the evening. But Raja Saab will be coming every 10-15 minutes, only 2 rooms, from his chamber to library room and library room to his chamber. I saw him several times walking, and nobody used to bother about seeing him because the students will be loitering in the corridors and all that. Nobody is scared of Raja Sir. The reason is his eyes are always, his sight falls on us, but we are not seen by him because he is in, always he is in his prapancha. He comes from very fast from his room and goes to library room, and we do not know what he does. 10-15 minutes he will be there and again going back to his room. Somehow I was also on the corridors waiting for Dr. Raghavan to meet to Dr. Raghavan and all that, and also my friends. So many nostalgic experiences are with Professor Raja. When I first made a public speech on account of invitation by Dr. Raghavan himself, but not, it is a very unforeseen invitation. Under very unforeseen circumstances, Professor Raghavan has been compelled to ask me to present a paper. I'm not his choice, I know that. There is a big background. But to my great good fortune, it was Kalidas Jayanti, and the KSRI hall is full of stalwarts. In those days, in
that is
70s, Mylapore and either Vivekananda College, their university, Pacheppas College, everywhere scholars and scholars and scholars. All of them have assembled, and I had a good presentation. And Raghavan Sir himself spoke about presentation for a long time on that day. Good fortune. But till then, I never had any word with Raja Sir. Actually, we were seeing each other, but I never had any acquaintance with him. On that day, Raja Sir waited and congratulated me before he left. You see his greatness. Where
magnanimity.
I was a student. So magnanimous he was. I was a student of Madras Sanskrit College, and he is a senior professor. Oh, what a wonderful scholar he is. Namaskar. Thank you all for giving me this great opportunity.
We all are very happy that we got a very good galaxy of scholars we could invite to participate in various sessions. And all the sessions are directly related to Professor Raja, because Professor Raja's areas of interest we have selected, and we have such fields only we have fixed. So we are thankful to one and all, Professor Kudumba Shastri, Professor Ramankutti, Dr. Ravindra Raja, Dr. Ravindran, and all those who assembled here, the participants. I express my thanks to one and all, and I request that our participants should attend the evening session, that means night session from 7 to 9. We will be having the session on textual criticism. On studies in linguistics. So it starts at 7, exactly at 7 p.m. up to 9 p.m. I request all participants to come and participate enthusiastically. And with these words, I beg to remain. And thank you, one and all. I am closing this session. Thank you.